Leave now, while you still can.
Leave now before Master finds you.
Who is that knocking at my door? Who is that knocking at my door? Who is that knocking at my door? Be gone with you.
Hospital Porter's pride and dignity stop the New World Order. Welcome to Panwo TV and happy Halloween to you all. Yes, I've never done a Halloween special before, but I really ought to, shouldn't I? Because it is my favourite time of year, and it really is, when you think about it, the most Panwo-esque time of year. You think, knowing me, that you probably guessed it's my favourite time of year. Yeah, so it's that time when the veils between the worlds grow thin, and ghosties and ghoulies and long-legged beasties and things that go bump in the night can come crawling through the portals, the natural ones, not the ones created by CERN, and interact with people. Put jack-o'-lanterns on your front doorstep, trick-or-treaters go round, and everyone has fun. It should be great. I'm not going to any parties, although I was invited to one and I thought about going along dressed as Uncle Fester. Yes, I wouldn't need much makeup, would I? But maybe next year, In the meantime, I'm still going to celebrate Halloween, and somebody has given me a present. Yes, the Porter's Poet has given me a present again, and I'm going to just open it in front of you guys like I did last time. And also, I've got a present for you. Yes, I have. I'm going to read you out my story, Ouija. Ouija as in Ouija board. Yes, it's very spooky and ghostly and very appropriate for Halloween. So, I think you'll enjoy both of these things. Right, hello there. Alright, I am here with a massive bag. Let me just show you the bag, before I open up everything. This was left for me at a local place where the Porter's Poet always drops things off for me. Huge bag full of gear. Makes the Wild Witch's shopping haul look a little bit tame, doesn't it? Let's just go through some of these and see what they are. I mean, my goodness, this is a much bigger bag than last time that the Porter's Poet actually left me anything. So just check everything's framed up properly and we shall begin. I'll put that over there. Here we go. Right, let's open it up first of all. And there's a little tie here at the top. I didn't show you that, so I'll just undo that. Just pull that apart like that. Well, let's have a look at what's inside. What I have to do is I'll put it down on the floor and just pass the things up to show you. Let's have a look. Now there's a little envelope here. Oh, Ben Emlyn Jones, a voucher for the Tree Hotel. Oh, that's what Sophie the Porter's Poet gave me last time. So my goodness, let's just have a look. Let's open it up. I mean, I had a lovely time last time because thanks to the Porter's Poet, I had a lovely meal. She brought me a lovely meal. Her and her partner, who have been really, really good supporters of me and of long-time viewers. And here we go. Ooh, the Tree Hotel at Iffley, Anora Restaurant, a meal. Ooh, wow, brilliant, fantastic. Oh my goodness, right. Oh, valid till February 2017. It won't take me that long, I'll tell you. Anyway, that is my voucher for a meal at the Tree Hotel. So thank you very much for that. I'll try and put the sort of rubbish things away separately from all things like the wrapping paper and stuff. Oh, everything's in spider's webs. Everything's all covered in spider's webs. My goodness. I've got this thing here, this picture, to be opened when you reach the end of the poem. Oh, okay. Now, where's the poem? All right, I'll put that over there for now. It's rattling, whatever it is. And there's a huge box here. Something covered in spider's web. I'll check that I've just got everything. I'll just put it up here. Oh, my goodness. I almost couldn't carry this home, I'll tell you. I was absolutely... just check that's still recording, all right, yeah. I was absolutely... it's not far, I don't live far away from the place where I had to pick it up, but I almost couldn't carry it home. I really almost couldn't. So I'll just put this over. I'll put some things in, the rubbish things, the wrapping paper, so I'll put in the bag. Alright. All wrapped up. You know, I just want to check I've still got the framing okay. think that's alright, isn't it? Yeah, all wrapped up in wrapping paper, which is spider's web, and it says here, Dear Ben, happy Hapanwo Halloween. Pride and dignity from the Porter's Poet. Oh, thank you very much. Oh my goodness, can I get this open? That's the question. This wrapping paper's so nice, I don't really want to ruin it. Oh, let's have a look. Let's go. Can I open it even? I don't want us to cut this. Oh dear, I think I'm going to... It's all in a knot. You know, I'm afraid I'm going to have to cut this. I'm sorry about this. Let me just grab myself a pair of scissors out of my drawer. Oh, my room's pretty small. I'm moving actually in a few months. I'm staying in the same flat. I'm just moving to a bigger room because Jelly's moving out. So I get his room. Ha ha ha. Someone else can have the box room then. Let's see, right. Oh, come on then. Right, that's it. I think that's it. I'll keep the scissors just in case I need to do any more chopping. Here we go. Now then, now let's chop that. Oh, I think I can undo this. Yeah, that's it. Got it undone. So that's from the Porter's Poet. Happy Halloween. Pride and dignity from the Porter's Poet. Now this is like, maybe this is in a sort of bow. Sorry about this, ladies and gentlemen. I will endeavour to open this properly. That's it. I don't want to rip it, that's the thing, because it looks so lovely. Hang on, I'm just going to stop. I don't want to bore you, so I'll be back in a few minutes. Okay, mission accomplished. I did have to cut a few bits, I'm sorry. Right, let's unwrap this spider's web type lace business here, and let's have a look what's in this box. It says B3. That's low, I'll keep that. B3, is it? So it's just, can you see all that? It says B3 on it. Alright, just to move it around. Let's see what's inside. Oh wow. Lots of spiders. Oh, little spiders. Oh my goodness. They have these at Paraforce. You know, I went to Nottingham to the Paraforce convention. Oh, spiders, webs and spiders in massive quantities. Oh my goodness. And here, a Halloween treat box. Oh, right. Along with your voucher to have a few Halloween drinks and a meal on us at the Tree Hotel, enclosed are your Hapanwo Halloween treats. This includes your Hapanwo Halloween poem, which is a rhyming short story. This is in the format of a game book. It can be read through chapter by chapter, or if you dare, as a game, which will test your knowledge, and if necessary, your luck. Dice included. Hapanwo merchandise in the form of exclusive bookmarks designed by The Third Eye. Your Halloween costume to wear while reading. The fangs might be a bit of a mouthful. No tricks, just plenty of treats, including your prize to be opened when you reach the end of the poem. Oh my goodness, oh wow. That must be in that box, that little package I just took out. Right, I'm going to have to just put the spiders and things over here. Right, Halloween costume. Right, let's have a look. Let's have a look at this Halloween costume. Ooh. God, blimey, it's well tied up, I must say. Very well tied up. I'm going to have to chop again. Sorry about this, lady. Porter's Poet and everyone else. It's going to have to just... That's right. So that's all off there. Yes. So that's over there. Just leave that over there for now. Right. Now, what is this costume like? This is my Halloween costume. Let's open this up, and it's a... Oh, it's a black cowl. And some vampire kit. Right, okay. It's going to take me a while to dress up, ladies and gentlemen, so I better get back to you in a little while. That's what I look like now. Yes. I'm the demon vampire of the John Radcliffe Hospital. I haunt the corridors. Especially... Oh God. Especially the blood bank, I love that bit. I'll tell you what, when that Ben Emily Jones comes in, I keep an eye on his neck. But then when his back is turned, I open up the fridge and I gorge myself on the various units of O negative. Yeah. Oh dear. I think I'm going to have to remove these teeth now, I think. Yeah, unfortunately, I've got you in frame, yes I have. I want to check I've got everything in frame. Yeah, unfortunately I need a bit of talk, so I can't do it with these teeth in. But they're very, very nice. They're very scary. I wish I'd had them to scare the horrible Ward sisters to death. When they were like, oh, what have we got here? Camera rolling. Yes, it is. Right, so what have we here? Oh, we have this bag with blood splattered all over it, and inside are a pair of dice. Yay! Oh, it's a board game. Yes. What's what's this? It's a scrap. Oh my god! A game book. 2 dice required. H4. Here we are. Featuring Ben Emily Jones. Letters Fell. Can you see that? It's got me on there. Letters Fell. A Halloween Haunt by the Porter's Poet. Right. Oh, what's going to happen now? I think I'm going to have to... I better move the box off, I think. Oh, there's a lot more in this box. Blimey. Oh, oops. Break everything. Right, okay. So let's have a look at what's in here. And I've got, look. Hapanwo. Oh, it's all Scrabble pieces. Oh, right, here we go. For Ben, I very nearly didn't give you your first poem for fear of looking a little unconventional. My goodness, like you ever need to worry about that with me. I'm so glad I didn't err on the side of conformity. You provide so much inspiration for me to pursue my passion for poetry, particularly the portering persuasion. With even more heartfelt thanks, the Porter's Poet. Oh, look, and I love it. Oh, there's me peeking through a keyhole. Can you see that? There's me peeking through a keyhole. About Ben. Ben Emily Jones is a long-serving ex-hospital porter who founded Hapanwo, which stands for Hospital Porters Against the New World Order. Among other things, he's a paranormal researcher and enthusiast with a passion for the unexplained. When he's not peering into the darkest of places, he can be found presenting his informative and entertaining documentaries and radio broadcasts. Ben relentlessly receives poetry from the Porter's Poet about his work because she loves Hapanwo. She's an anonymous poet and is the author of this book. Oh, that's lovely, isn't it? Isn't that lovely? And it's published by the Probing Press 2016, designed by the Third Eye. Right, Letters Fell. Contents. Chapter 1. Let the games begin. Page 4. I need just a little drink here. Oh, I've got blood all over the glass. Right, here we go. Letterboxes snapped shut as letters fell, the author of which no one could tell. 11 of these travelled by post, sent by the most mysterious host, addressed by this unfamiliar hand. It wasn't just random where these would land. A cash prize offered, the spooky invite. Just endure a haunted hotel for the night. Flight booked, tanks filled, tickets for a coach. As the delightfully creepy date did approach. From all over the globe they made their way. Ghosts, real or imagined, at least it will pay. Porter's Poet mused, this host seems a bit high and mighty, as she packed for her stay in a remote part of Blighty. As she left, she grabbed her notepad and pen to document this poem for Ben. Last turn on the left stood the hotel's spooky silhouette. The first guest's name begins with a letter near the end of the alphabet. Called X for short, he was first to be greeted on the ringing bell by the butler of the aptly named The Last Left Hotel. The letter A of the word last was not there. The E in left gone, she stopped to stare. Its faded grandeur, thought this Edwardian lady, was chillingly beautiful, but the butler seemed shady. The next guest was somebody who has common sense. Sometime later, Porter's poet appeared, feeling rather tense. Through the trees the poet saw, in the wild, a witch out rambling. Both approaching the hotel through the dark, they came scrambling. "Trick or treat!" cackled the witch, and the poet, amusing Giles the butler, who tried not to show it. Kirk next felt like he'd come from another universe. What a trek that night! At this hotel, there are things left hidden right in plain sight. Victor from Nevada! Oh, I know who these people are, yes. Edwardian lady, I know. Was next to arrive, followed by a lone gunman advancing up the drive. Anyone guessing who these people know who these people? Everyone knows who these people are now. Then Colin, who had previously been immortalised in rhyme as the ex-hospital porter Ben, was right on time. The last guest who arrived was fashionably late. It was so cold he got held up with frostbite on this Halloween date. All night he had no feeling in his fingers and toes. "I'm playing it cool," he shivered, and that night, in fear, he never froze. He was the last in, but determined not to be the first out. He ain't afraid of no ghosts, of that have no doubt. Who'll be last left in that last left hotel? Could the answer lie in the letters which fell? And there we have it. The last left hotel. Oh, wow. And then the next page says this. Stop! Before proceeding to the next chapter, you must answer the following question correctly. As the guests gather for a night in the creepy hotel, can you name the hotel featured in the Stephen King novel The Shining? I know what it is. It's the Overlook. It's the Overlook Hotel. I'm sure it is. Check out your answer at the bottom of the next page. If you get the question wrong or do not know the answer, go to page 31 to test your luck with a roll of the dice. Place a lucky bookmark in your current page, as you will return here if you're lucky. If you get the question right, you may proceed immediately to the next chapter. Well, I can't fool anyone, can I? Because I'm... yes, I can't fool anybody. Right. Chapter 2. Rules of play. This is all fun, isn't it? Not all the hotel guests had met, but they were all of a similar mindset. One thing in common, they were all acquainted with Ben, who then said to the poet, "Best get out your pen." Cocktails? Asked Giles the butler. Woo-woos all round, one presumes. The only spirits here, quipped Kirk, will be what one consumes. Yeah, lots of fakery, said Victor, like our fancy dress costumes. Just as cocktail glasses floated up from the bar with some spoons. What's going on? Asked Victor. Are we having a visitation? We don't need a skeptic raising the bar, he joked, with this elevation. Oh, if Skeppers were here, said Ben, we'd have rhetoric and Occam's razor quoted. So we've had a close shave. Then down everything floated. The dress code on the invite was fancy dress attire. Inspired by his visit to Highgate Cemetery, Ben had come as a vampire. And I have. So shame I don't have a bigger angle that you can still see me. Can you see? You still... There we are. I'm still dressed as a vampire. Oh, I need a wide angle camera or something. Yeah. Let me just get you back in frame. Oops. There we go. Right. Oh, yeah. So you can make sure you can see everything. Okay. Highgate Cemetery. Come over the vampire, yeah. This is just like the chat box, said Ben. On a Thursday night, waiting for dinner to be served, he joked, "This vampire needs a bite." "What's the deal?" asked the fellow with no feeling, as they sat down for a dinner. Yeah. I haven't got the night shot on. Hang on a sec. There's some weird lighting effect here with the camera. One moment, ladies and gentlemen. Technical hitch. It always happens on Halloween, doesn't it? Those ghosties can give us a bit good. Right. Where was I? Yeah. What's the deal? Asked the fellow with no feeling, as they sat down to dinner. "If we stay here till dawn," said X, "everyone's a winner." X was reading the rules to the letter. Soon the bank balances of Ben and his 10 might be better. 11 guests, said Ben. An odd number, if ever I've seen. Count Dracula can count, said Giles, but we're actually 13. Which is unlucky, he sneered, if you believers are into superstition. Tonight, said the poet, we need to trust our own intuition. If you add Giles and the host, said X, his calculation is right. Is the host joining us, asked the poet, or has he got stage fright? At dawn, said Giles, if you succeed with his proposition. We will, said the poet, but I doubt you believe in precognition. I believe, said Giles, you'll soon sense impending doom. Then right on cue, there was a loud ghostly boom. I hope it's not the Halloween asteroid, said Ben. This is really sent to try us. Perhaps my beliefs about space weather are causing confirmation bias. Over dinner they dissected what had been sent in the post, the invite and an old article. Who on earth was this host? Mr. E, as he called himself, had presented a newspaper clipping, so the hotel's photo and some words were cut out and missing. Oh blimey, it's like Sherlock Holmes, a mystery story. Oh, this I must say to anyone, Sophie the Port's poet has put in several references to the story you'll shortly be hearing. There's some references here to Ouija, my story. Oh my god! Oh, I wish I could have done my makeup that good. Look at that. Stop! Before proceeding to the next chapter, you must answer the following question correctly. Ben's costume was inspired by the Highgate Cemetery vampire, which famous skeptic and co-writer of The Meaning of Life is buried in the cemetery. Oh, sorry, hang on. Which famous skeptic and co-writer of The Meaning of Life is buried in the cemetery? Check your answer at the bottom of the next page. If you get the question wrong, or do not know the answer, go to page 31 to test your luck with a roll of the dice. Place a bookmark in your current page, as you will return here if you're lucky. If you get the question right, you may proceed immediately to the next chapter. The Meaning of Life, famous skeptic and co-writer. I don't know. I don't know. Bookmark there. A Panwo bookmark there. I don't know if any of you guys know, do you? Oh, you'll be shouting at the camera now. You're shouting at your screens now, won't you? So I've got to go to page 31. Okay. Right. Test your luck. Right. Dice. You are here because you got a question wrong or did not know the answer. You must now roll a dice. When did I find the answer about the Overlook Hotel? I know it's correct. The Overlook Hotel is the correct answer. Anyway. You are here because you got the question wrong or did not know the answer. You must now roll the dice. Roll a 6 or above with 2 6-sided dice in order to proceed. If you've succeeded, go back to the point where you left the story. If you fail, turn to page 33. What's on page 33? I hope it's not like room 101. There's no rats in a cage. Oh, what have we got? 3. Oh, right. No rats in a cage, I hope. Game over. Oh. It is no laughing matter. See, game over. That was the previous page, only the previous page was this one. Oh, where was it? Test your luck. Okay. Game over. It is no laughing matter when 13 creepy clowns suddenly appear. Perhaps they are from another dimension, Perhaps they are the manifestation of the guests' collective unconscious. The proceedings resemble a scene from a circus as the clowns chase all the guests out of the hotel. If you think the guests will be getting their prize money now, you must be joking. Oh dear. There's an astrological symbol there. Oh dear. So that's the end of the... I can go back. Can I go back? Can I cheat? Let me cheat. I'm going to cheat. The meaning of life. I don't know. Who's the famous skeptic and courageous? I'll tell you what, is it? Well, there's no way I could check the answer. It's not that guy who wrote V for Vendetta, is it? One of them. Oh, well, there's no way you can test anyway. I don't want to give up. I want to stop. Right, here we go. Chapter 3. Ready or not? Here we are. Can you see that? Chapter 3. In Edwardian times, the hotel was the Letter family's home, of which... here's the answers. Oh, at the bottom. Sorry. Right, it was the Overlook Hotel. Yeah, you see, they're written at the bottom backwards. Can you see? I'm sorry. Back. It was the Overlook Hotel, and in this case, the answer was Douglas Adams. Did he write The Meaning of Life? Douglas Adams. I know he wrote the Holistic Detective Agency, Dirk Gently, and also, of course, Hitchhikers. But oh blimey, I didn't know. Anyway, I've cheated now, but I didn't want to give up. I want to see what's in this book. Okay, in Edwardian times, the hotel was the Letter family's home, of which now, said the article, the ghosts of twin girls roam. Oh yes, that reminds me of The Shining. They were playing hide and seek with their mother and hid behind the curtains beside each other. Unbeknownst to them, the window latch was broken. These next words would be the last they heard spoken. Ready or not, here I come, their mother cried, as Eve and Ava Letter fell from the window to the pond outside. Oh. On their 11th birthday, which was also a Halloween night, they played their last game when they fell from that height. Mrs. Letter noticed the wild flicker of candlelight, by now the open window, where she then realised their plight. Oh. No more games and laughter that night. Just a ticking clock. It was 11 minutes past 11 as the tick turned to tock. Then one day Mrs. Letter found a Ouija board secretly to entice the spirits of her twins against her husband's advice. Oh, wow. This is definitely based on the story you're going to read later. Riddled with holes. The full newspaper story wasn't transparent. But there was one thing the article made clearly apparent. In the hotel, each and every Halloween, at 11:11 p.m, the twins make themselves seen. Oh, my goodness. The Porter's poet checked her notes and made a correction, saying, I think this will take quite some detection, and possibly a spot of introspection. They'll all be left if they keep looking in the right direction. A conversation over dessert came round to Randy's prize. The witch exclaimed, look at that picture. They moved. The eyes. She turned to the guy who had common sense and said, just look. Hey, he laughed. That's the oldest trick in the book. Thinking of space weather, Ben gazed out of the window. The moon, it did glow. I should be preparing the letters section, he said, for my next radio show. Here we go. Yeah. As the delegates chose desserts from the lavish selection, all Ben could think about was colonic mass ejection. Colonic mass ejection. I think that's coronal mass ejection. Colonic mass ejection. Oh my god, that sounds painful. Look, said Ben. What's that outside by the pond? Yeah, said the lone gunman. I think you've been conned. It's funny though, but me and the lone gunman and everyone else actually has these conversations. It just looks to me like someone wearing a white sheet. Said lone gunman. Oh yeah, said Ben. Then why haven't they got any feet? "Here you go, Ben," said the poet. "I've got you an after-dinner brandy." The chat by now had moved on several lunar distances from Randy to simulated reality, a theory from which a film franchise became iconic, to the holographic universe, and solipsist gatherings being splendidly ironic. My goodness. Yeah, you've really got to be a buff for my radio show to get all these jokes. Colin said inspiration for his zombie costume came from a talk given by Ben. Porter's poet was a pumpkin, but had no pockets for her notepad and pen. "I'm impressed with our fancy dress efforts," said the voice of common sense, as they retired to the drawing room with a frisson of suspense. Oh my god, that's me! Look at that. A non-skeptic. Oh wow, I'm like an old Lord of the Manor. Look at that. Stop. Oh my god, here we go again. Stop. Right, yes. Before proceeding to the next chapter, you must answer the following question correctly. The guest discussed Randy's prize over dinner. What was the amount in US dollars Mr. Randy offered to the person who could pass his paranormal challenge? Check your answer at the bottom of the next page. If you get the answer wrong or do not know the answer, go to page 31 to test your luck with a roll of dice. Place a bookmark in your current page, as you will return here if you are lucky. If you get the question right, you may proceed to the next chapter. Right, I think I know what it is, and I think it's $1 million US dollars. It started off as like 10,000 when he began it in the late 1960s with 10,000, but it went up to 1 million thanks to a donation from the military industrial complex. And well, we're not exactly sure who it, but there's a few people I do accuse in my skeptic lecture. And the answer is yes, indeed, 1 million US dollars. Chapter 4, board games. Board spelled that way. There we go. Board. The board games. Right. Board games. Right. Being rather wordy, the poet loved a spot of Scrabble. And Scrabble is a big theme in this particular package from the Porter's poet. And X was known to have a dabble. Amongst the cobwebs, they found this dusty board game. As they played, they agreed the evening was proving quite tame. Just then, a radio with no batteries tuned itself into Monster Mash. Is that the same one as Michael Shermer had, I wonder? No. It turned into Monster Mash. Undeterred, everyone decided how to spend their cash. "Well, I've got a new microphone," said Ben, "for her Panwo radio already." "I need a new broomstick," said the witch. "Mine's a little unsteady." While the poet puzzled over her letters, X checked the hotel's rules. Before long, they were all contemplating if they'd glimpse any real ghouls. "We can venture outside," said X, "onto the hotel's estate, just as long as we don't go outside the gate." Eager for a thrill, they all dashed off in different directions, but no one was left alone as they carried out their inspections. That's exactly. Some explored inside the hotel, and some dared to venture outside. The latter included the ex-porter, who took it all in his stride. "No rooms beyond here," barked Giles on the top floor. "At least not for you." Thinking quickly, Colin said, "We were just looking for the loo." "You'll be spending more than a penny," said Giles, "if you get through the night." "Why?" asked Victor. "Does that butler appear so uptight?" I've got plenty of film, I'm just checking there. As they retreat downstairs, they feel a cool breeze. "Hear that?" asked Victor. "Oh," asked Colin, "is that the whispering of the trees?" "Sometimes," continued Colin, "we see or hear patterns in random data. It's called pareidolia. I'll tell you all about it later." That's straight out of that is straight out of my story. Listen, said Victor, I hear the voice of a girl. As they peered through the window outside the fog. Outside the fog did swirl. Ready or not, here we come, a second girl's voice did respond. As the fog cleared, they caught sight of two figures by the pond. Ooh, it's those two girls, those twins that died. Tonight, said Ben, with everyone here, it's like diving into warm water. I hope this pond, said the Edwardian lady, isn't too cool for an ex-porter. The reflection of another Edwardian lady stared back, but she didn't know who. Well, joked Ben, I'm sure that's no reflection on you. What's that? Can you reach it? She asked, looking quizzical. Oh, wow, said Ben's elbow deep. It's a full original. Oh, yeah, that's... Wait till you read the story, you'll hear the story. This perfectly preserved board was made to invoke. To their astonishment, the rippling reflection then spoke. To maintain suspense, it said, I, of course, have to talk in a riddle. A novel disclosure reveals more than words in its middle. Never judge a book by its cover is the first advice. It's your turn next in this game, but that alone won't suffice. In the left pocket of a skeptic's right-hand man, the biggest key is what reveals the master plan. The real key is priceless and unlocks the door to perceiving how to be respectful of what each other is believing. Ouija boards started as parlour games, said Ben, and later came claims of channeling spirits and spelling out their names. Ben explained, though some say it is possible to detect the unconscious movement of the ideomotor effect. Ben and the Edwardian lady dashed back and were met at reception by Kirk, who asked if they had seen a fake projection. No, they said, denying there was any deception, as they pondered on the vision's pearl of wisdom about perception. Oh my goodness, who's that? Oh, look, can you see that? Who is that? Who is she? Is that? I don't know who that is. Is that somebody? Is that Edwardian lady? I don't know what Edwardian lady looks like, because I don't know who Edwardian lady is because looks like because I've never met her. But look, oh, stop! Here we go again. Before proceeding to the next chapter, you must answer the following question correctly. As the full original is pulled out of the water, which infamous English occultist offered free instruction on the use of the Ouija board to any who cared to apply? Check your answer at the bottom of the next page. If you get the answer wrong or do not know the answer, go to page 31 to test your luck with a roll of the dice. Place a bookmark in your current page as you will return here if you're lucky. If you get the question right, you may proceed immediately to the next chapter. Wow. Famous English occultists. There's only one name that comes to mind. I mean, sure, there were lots of English occultists, but the biggest and most famous or infamous of them all was none other than Aleister Crowley. Let's have a look. Yes, it's Aleister Crowley. Right, I'm on the next chapter. Right, okay. Next level. Chapter 5, next level. The poet, and just have a little bit of water, drink. It's not blood, don't worry. It's got a bit of blood on there because of my makeup. Yes. The poet knocked the Scrabble board. She had too much wine. 2 letters fell to the floor, perhaps some sort of sign. Coincidence? Joked Ben. A and E. Did I say I worked in a hospital as a porter? You did, and I've got deja vu, chuckled the poet. I'd best have some water. Allow me, said Giles the butler, with a wry smile. There'll be fun and games later. Give yours a rest for a while. The lights flickered eerily, then all was pitch black. There was a thud, and Giles was flat on his back. When the lights came on, water and Scrabble tiles were everywhere. As Giles plucked a Scrabble tile from his hair, he muttered, "The lights weren't meant to go off yet." "Don't worry," said Colin in jest. "It's just your hologram that's wet." The butler had tripped and injured his knee. The Edwardian lady sensed all was not what it seemed to be. She distracted him, joking, "Is that your idea of a night on the tiles?" Very good. Well, she grabbed the biggest key in the bunch, belonging to Giles. "The guy who has common sense," advised Giles. "You need a trip to A&E." "No," said Giles sharply, then muttered, "I just need to find one key." Ben came to the rescue pretty fast. Did he mention he was a porter in the past? I have done, yes. "Well," spoke the voice of common sense, "do we have any antiseptic?" The Edwardian lady speculated. "What we have is a resident skeptic." "Extraordinary claims, my lady," jeered Giles. "I think you'll agree, require evidence of the same extraordinary degree." Ah! The skeptics always laugh at that one. Ben helped Giles to elevate his leg and find a comfortable position to sit, while the Edwardian lady searched for a first aid kit. Then she found in the hotel's lost property drawer the full newspaper clipping intact, showing the hotel years before. Oh, this brings some reminder. Here we go. "Well, they say that the truth is stranger than fiction. The story," she thought, "will cause quite some friction." I can't get comfortable in this little room. It'd be good when I got the bigger room and I have a proper more space. The article, here we are, the story ship will cause some friction. The article showed the hotel sign with all the letters in place and revealed more details of this paranormal case. It wasn't the last left, but the Lost Loft Hotel. Outside on the sign, it was the letters A and E which fell. The false name given by the host, she could only assume, kept secret the existence of a hidden attic room. So begins many horror story plots. The newspaper article said Mrs. Letter knew her husband wouldn't approve. As she tried to channel the twins, did that planchette move? This was no game to her, no rolling of dice, hidden on Halloween in the loft. This was her communication device. In her haste, she had left the door to the loft unlocked. The door opened without warning. Well, he could have knocked. Then everything in the loft started to shake. Mr. Letter feared great evil. This bit of wood could awake. That exquisite board, someone had painstakingly embossed it. But those letters on wood fell to the pond where Mr. Letter tossed it. As for the loft, it was lost behind lock and key by Mr. Letter after he found his wife couldn't let the twins be. It is alleged each Halloween in the hotel you can see a double ghost at 11 minutes past 11. Of this you can boast, of course. Could the twin apparition be more than tricks of imagination? The article concluded that an afterlife could be the rational explanation. Ouija, oh look, Ouija, you see, this is the planchette. This is the board, this is the patent mark on Ouija, shaped like a planchette. The trademark registered US patent 19th of January 1916, US August 1920, made by William Full, Baltimore, Maryland, USA. There you go. Stop! It's another stop page. Am I going to the page 31? Before proceeding to the next chapter, you must answer the following question correctly. As the loft room of a hotel is revealed, can you name the most haunted house in London where a maid was said to have lost her mind? In the attic room in 1879. Most haunted house in London. Oh my god. Check your answer at the bottom of the next page. If you get the question wrong or do not know, go to page 31 to test your luck with a roll of the dice. Place a bookmark on your current page as you will return it if you are lucky. If you get the question right, you may proceed immediately to the next chapter. Oh, God. I know because there's a very famous story. There was a maid, the previous maid had been an Irish woman who had killed, and she'd eaten, I remember she actually ate the body of her mistress because she'd grown up in the famine where cannibalism was very common in Ireland. What's it called? Oh, bloody hell. I think that her Panwo bookmark is going to have to go in the book again. Page 31. Here we go. Right. Okay. Oh, here we go. Right. Page 31. Test your luck. You are here because you got the answer wrong or did not know the answer. You must now roll the dice. Roll 6 or above with a two-sided dice in order to progress. If you succeeded, go back to the point where you left the story. Oh, I got 6 and a 4. Yes, 6 and a 4. Right, back I go. That was a bit of luck now. A bit better than last time. Chapter 6, Endgame. A bit more blood. Right. Before arriving, the guests researched what they thought was the hotel's name. The online searches had all showed the same. Of course, nothing came up on the Lost Loft Hotel's fame, and now it looks like Deception is the name of this game. The Edwardian lady returned with no first aid kit, but that was justifiable. She'd found lost property in the lost property. That was undeniable. Could this paranormal story be scientifically unfalsifiable? The puzzle pieces fitted, and they all formed a plan that was viable. Hey, look at that pain in the neck, whispered Ben. Another vampire joke, warned the poet. I'll put down my pen. No Dracula pun intended, said Ben, but Giles is out for the count. As Giles slept, swiftly but softly, the stairs did they mount. They all headed for the library on the hotel's top floor. The poet knew where to find the key to open the first door. It was approaching 11 p.m, but they all maintained their composure. As Porter's poet perused the shelf for Ben's novel of disclosure. They maintained their composure as the Porter's poet perused the shelf of Ben's novel of disclosure. The lone gunman helpfully kept watch, acting as a lookout. Teamwork as X marked the spot, so the poet could pick her favourite book out. Quick, said the lone gunman, before you turn into a pumpkin for real. Roswell Rising had been hollowed out, and inside a key did it conceal. Oh my goodness. I'm not sure how many keys you could actually fit inside this. I'm not sure how many keys you could actually fit inside that. You could probably fit a couple. Oh right, yes, a key to skip in Roswell Rising. Here we go. Right. The apparitions. Can you see all right? Yeah, you can. Okay. Just I've got the viewfinder over one side. Okay. The apparitions riddle was about to be solved. Colin pulled a lever hidden by the novel, and Ben's bookcase revolved. Ben's bookcase revolved. Wow, said Kirk. We've really turned this situation around. A locked door between them and the skeptic's stomping ground. The first key opened the door, as per the apparition's advice, to a stairwell, and like the twins, here everything is done twice. And just like the twins game, it will all come at a price. As they climbed the stairs, the skeptics rolled his last dice. As they climbed the stairs, the skeptics rolled his last dice. Like these. Oh yeah. A second door between them and the skeptics' haunt. And thanks to Giles, they had a second key to flaunt. The last left is the Lost Loft. This is no Mandela. This is no Mandela effect. The door creaked open while the skeptic began to suspect. Ben entered the loft, camcorder in hand. With just a bit of camera envy, you'll understand. CCTV monitors and gadgets. This game had been carefully planned. A theatrical act with the butler as stagehand. I love it. I just love it. Is Porter's poet getting this for my next poem then? I can't believe it. It's Mr. E. Skeptic, said Ben. He's sure been a mystery skeptic, said the poet. It's sunrise, she said. Ah, dosh, best not be a mystery, 'cause you owe it. What I believe in, said the skeptic, is truth, reason and evidence. What you have to say just constitutes irrelevance. Free speech, but only for the skeptics, asked Ben. Free speech, but only for the skeptics, asked Ben with his usual eloquence. A materialist bravery award for our skeptic in residence. Oh, cool. That's a good Halloween picture, isn't it? Yeah. That's it. Stop! Stop again. Right. Oh my God. Can I get this one? Stop. Before proceeding to the next chapter, you must answer the following question correctly. While Ben hopes to capture an apparition on film, can you name the Norfolk village that gave its name to a series of experiments where ghosts were said to have exposed themselves onto film kept in locked boxes? Check your answer at the bottom of the next page. If you get the question wrong or do not know the answer, go to page 31 to test your luck with a roll of the dice. Place a bookmark in your current page, as you will return here if you are lucky. If you get the question right, you may proceed immediately to the next chapter. I'm glad I carried on playing this and I did cheat because I couldn't get the first question right. Now, where ghosts were said to expose themselves onto film kept in locked boxes, a Norfolk village. Could it be Skull? I think it's Skull. And the answer is Skull. Yeah, I've talked about Skull a lot. Right. At this rate, I won't need this bookmark for this game. I'll keep the bookmark, although I'll keep from my other books. Chapter 7, Game Changer. Here we go. Here's the chapter 7, so you can see. I'm going to show you these as I go along. There we go. Chapter 7, Game Changer. Just then, Ben captured on his camcorder twin apparitions. This was real. No need for any suspicions. At that moment, the double vision which Mr. E saw truly shook his skepticism to its very core. Mr. E had been walking down Skeptic Avenue without breaking a stride. This is from my Michael Shermer videos. Alright, without breaking a stride. The onus isn't just on the believer, said Ben, with dignity and pride. The twins had fallen, but the skeptic had fallen from grace. He realised this, then slowed down his pace. I admit to you all, I'm a skeptic fail of epic proportions. I'm off my own measuring scale. In this game of life, said Ben, we're not keeping score. There's no need for a believer-skeptic war. I feel like the Walking Dead, said the no longer mysterious host. I came as a zombie, joked Colin, but you look like you've seen a ghost. I'd no belief in the ghost story, said Mr. E. So I fooled you to see what you do. No more tricks here. No more tricks here. No more tricks. Here's your treat. No, said Ben. We'll take no money from you. I created a monster, said Mr. E. The butler. He took on my views. The worst he'll leave with, said Ben, is on his knee with a bit of a bruise. You're nothing like the Victor, said Victor, who created me. He'd come as Frankenstein's monster. Well, of course, who else could he be? The Scrabble tiles, which earlier had fallen to the floor, in the drawing room had somehow been joined by a few more, and spelled out the names Ava and Eve. The twins are here to stay, and will never leave. Next Halloween, they were all sent another invite by a Mr. E.B. Lever. E.B. Lever. But not for an autumnal fright. This mystery believer, his identity, I know it. And his invite to skeptics in the pub sounds cool, thought the poet. Porter's poet wrote feverishly in rhyme to document the sighting. Letters fell from her pen to the page like automatic writing. 11 letters are in the title Letters Fell, which was not done by intention. Only when finished she realised and thought this synchronicity worth a mention. At the hotel Letters Fell was left for Ben, a rhyming tale of duplicity, where Porter's poet told of her double letter score for the word synchronicity. And of one person's truth being another's illusion, and how respect is the key, that was her final conclusion. Maybe, broached Ben, you could make your next poem a bit shorter. Nah, replied the poet. I get too much inspiration from a certain exporter. That's true, said Ben. Can you add that we didn't need our cash prize? We gained the most valuable gift of seeing through each other's eyes. Team Believer, Team Skeptic with a C, or Team Skeptic with a K. In this multiplayer game, honesty and respect are the rules of play. All our views together are worth more than parts, making up the sum. No matter how many lives you get, ready or not, united, here we come. The end. Congratulations. Thanks to you, the guests who made it through the night. Oh, that's not lovely. Isn't that lovely? That's brilliant. Oh, man. And so, of course, the next one is the Test Your Luck page, and there's that symbol on there. And then what's on page 32? Oh, that's that symbol there, which I think is it Saturn or one of the astrological signs? Game over, right? And then a glossary. You've got a glossary, right? Just so you know what's what, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, so Sophie the Porter's poet has included a glossary of terms. Here we go. Yes, automatic writing. How much film have I got left? Yeah, automatic writing. When someone is not aware of what they are about to write, and which is thought to be generated supernaturally, spiritually, or subconsciously. Ben's Bookcase, the blog where Ben posts his fictional writing. Chat box. In the contents of this poem, it refers to the chat box Ben uses in conjunction with Hapanwo Radio, where listeners can communicate with Ben and each other during the show. Collective unconscious, thought to be an aspect of the unconscious mind shared by others as opposed to the unconscious of the individual, and acquired from ancestral memory. Colonic mass ejection. This is a play on words in the poem in relation to the phrase coronal mass ejection, which refers to plasma being ejected from the surface of the sun into space, and which Ben sometimes reports during the space weather section of his radio show. Confirmation bias. When new information is interpreted such that it confirms an existing belief. Disclosure. The act of government informing us of the existence of extraterrestrials. 1111. There are various theories about the significance of 1111, including, among others, that on seeing this, it is time to make a wish, that on seeing it on a clock or some sort of sign, more specifically a sign of a spirit presence, and that seeing 1111 repeatedly is not coincidence but synchronicity. A Halloween asteroid. Ben reported on Hapanwo Radio during the space weather section of his show that there would be an asteroid passing by the Earth relatively closely on the 31st of October 2016. This asteroid is 2,789 feet across and 13.5 lunar distances. That's true, well remembered. There was one last year as well. There was a Halloween asteroid last year. Highgate Cemetery. A cemetery in London which attracted much interest after it was reported that in 1969 an apparition had been seen there. This was sensationalised by the media into a story about a vampire haunting the cemetery, which became known as the Highgate Vampire. Holographic universe. The holographic principle states that, in mathematical terms, the universe can be explored as plain as 3D projection of a 2D one. Hapanwo stands for Hospital Porters Against the New World Order. Shame on you if you needed to look this one up. Hapanwo Radio, Ben's radio show, which is on Thursday nights at 8 PM. It is usually. I sometimes have to change it, but usually it is 8 PM. Idiomotor effect. When the body makes involuntary motor movements without making the conscious decision to do so. Lunar distance. The average distance from the centre of the moon to the centre of the Earth. Mandela effect. a collective experience of people remembering something which is different to reality, which has been proposed as evidence of parallel universes. That's it, true. Materialist Bravery Award, MBA. The award was devised by Ben and comes in bronze, silver and gold. The MBA arose from the question of whether there is life after death, or whether we cease to exist when we die. A person is awarded an MBA if they demonstrate the courage, fortitude and general superiority over others to live their lives successfully without the psychological safety net of believing in life after death. Ben feels that people who achieve this should be recognised for their valour, bravery, pragmatism and general glory. That's true. And by the way, Porter's Poet, I've discovered that Susan Blackmore has actually got her MBA. Remember, that's an important point. I should point that out. Susan Blackmore, remember me sending my MBAs to people like Andrew Copson and that. And I sent one to Susan Blackmore, the gold one. She got a gold for special one. She did receive it, and she's mentioned it on her website. I must do her Panwo voice post about that. New World Order. New World Order is a one-world autocratic government, which hopefully will never appear. Occam's razor. The principle states that the theory with the fewest assumptions is considered most likely to be correct. Unnecessary assumptions have been shaved off. It is sometimes explained in that entities should not be multiplied needlessly. Pareidolia. The phenomenon of perceiving patterns where there are none. For example, seeing a face in a cloud or hearing words in music played backwards. Yeah, that's audio pareidolia. Also, this is also known as apophenia. Yeah, that's sorry, I'm being a smart ass now, aren't I? Planchette. The planchette, the pointer used with Ouija boards upon which people place their fingers. Precognition, knowing or perception of an event or state which has not yet been experienced, thought to be a form of extrasensory perception. Randy's Prize. The challenge set up by magician James Randi in 1964, offering a monetary reward to anyone able to prove they have paranormal abilities tested by specific criteria. Oh, 1964, I thought it was late 60s, but it's 1964 is mid-60s, so that's interesting. Roswell Rising, the third book Ben has written, published in July 2016. It is an excellent alternative history novel about disclosure. Thanks, Sophie, glad you enjoyed it. Solipsist. Someone who holds the view that only the self is certain to exist, and that the world external to their own mind is uncertain. Yes, well, yeah, it's a philosophical literalist would say that's true. I think, therefore I am. The Cartesian principle is the only single certainty in the universe, but I don't believe that myself. I don't. I think it requires very, very excessive assumptions to think that. Skeppers. The light-hearted term which Ben uses to refer to skeptics, I do. And this is Professor Brian Cox, in this case I call him beep, beep, beep. Yeah. Skeptics in the Pub. A social event which is a forum for critical thinking. A lot of both goes on at those events, I'll tell you. There's another one in a couple of weeks, actually. Skeptic with a K versus skeptic with a C. You see the difference there. Aside from the differences in UK and US spelling, it is generally understood that the differences that people who identify themselves as skeptics with a K, with a capital S and a K, capital K, belong to a social movement whereas the term skeptics with a lowercase s and small lowercase c is generally used when people are communicating that they are questioning something. That's true. I mean, I've actually stopped the capital S thing. I've decided it looks a bit ungainly. However, the differences in spelling, I think I found the K and C in both American and British literature. So I think the Americans tend to gravitate more towards the K, but you can still use C in America. You can still use K over here and be correct. But the difference between the two is significant, I think, and I talk more about that in my Skeptic lecture, which you can get on this channel. Space weather. Yes, there really is weather in space. There may be no air in space, but you can still have solar wind, as space weather refers to the area of space close to Earth and is concerned with aspects such as solar wind, magnetic fields and radiation which can affect conditions on Earth. Synchronicity. The principle that seemingly unrelated events can be connected by meaning, and that they are more than mere coincidence. That's true, that's a good definition. Woo-woo, a term used to refer to somebody who is thought to believe things, such as the supernatural, readily, without what is considered to be sufficient evidence. Yeah, that's what the skeptics call us. And here's a few more symbols here. That's a strange... This is very Illuminati, these symbols, I think. I don't know if Sophie's trying to tell me something. And there's some more there, you see, on the final pages. There we are. And, oh, I've reached the back. It's on the back cover. Yes, it is. I know. A frighteningly funny... Oh, this is the... Look, there's a back cover here. A frighteningly funny read. Giles the butler. Haunted house somewhere in Blighty. It is Halloween night in the year 2016, and several guests have been invited to spend a night in a haunted hotel in return for a cash prize. Can a paranormally astute ex-hospital porter and his chums discover the key to what lies behind the mysterious goings-on at the hotel? Do they survive the night, so the ex-porter makes it home in time to host another episode of her Panwo Radio? If so, did they leave with more than they bargained for? Will Porter's poet be more succinct this time? Find out inside. Visit www.herpanwo.blogspot.com for links to all of Ben's writings, films and radio productions. There we go. Here we go. This is a work of fiction. Names, characters, businesses, places, events and incidents are either the products of the author's imagination or used in a fictitious manner, and any resemblance to actual persons, living or dead, or actual events is purely coincidental. The opinions expressed are those of the characters and should not be confused with the authors. Right. I'm sure a few of those people I very much recognise. Porter's Poet, definitely. Published by the Probing Press 2016, designed by the Third Eye. What an amazing book. I tell you, that's incredible. I mean, I honestly don't know how you do this, Sophie. I really don't. How you put all this together. I'm really, really delighted, that you feel you put all this work into these things. It's a beautiful book. I will treasure this. I mean, I'll show it to some people. I mean, I'll show it to the people who are referred to in the book because I think they'll get it. Because there's a lot of in jokes in here, of course. So thank you very much. So I'll put that to one side now with all the other things I'm going to keep. And let's get the box back, shall we? Oh, what we got here? Right. Oh, we got some of these. Oh, now these are nice. Look, Porter's Poet has given me some nice little round things. I think those are sweeties. I think they are actually sweeties this time. They're not just polystyrene. Well, I'll put one in my mouth, and if my mouth goes all funny, I'll know they are polystyrene. And there's all these other little things too, like little pumpkins. And do you see there's pumpkins there? And there's little bats, real Halloween type little bits in there. So now let's check it. I'll tell you what, I'm still, believe it or not, I'm still encountering some of those little stars that were in the package for Easter. Remember that? Oh right, now I don't want to lose any of these little bits because I'll probably encounter them for years to come, all over the floor. They keep poking out of carpets, and several other people in the house have actually found those stars. They're quite sharp actually, so you have to be careful. Oh, there goes one. They're quite sharp, so you have to be careful. All right, there we go. I'll just put that in there. I'll just put this in. I'm just going to put my book back in the box because they get dog-eared if they're left lying around. Put the book back, while writing a novel of disclosure. That's just my box there. So I don't have much room in here. I am moving soon to a bigger room in the house, the flat, or rather. It's not a full-size house. Oh, and there's more of these little round things. I'll put them all in there. So. Because there's some bigger things. Now let's have a look what we've got here. Huh? Let's just pick up this pumpkin. Oh, hang on. Right. You camera's still recording. Good. Oh, I'm getting grease all over the collar of my vampire cape. Grease paint. Now what's this? Oh my goodness. Whoa. Oh wow. Hang on. It's all things wrapped up in lovely old paper. I love this old paper. And it is. What can it be? What can it be? Let's have a look. Oh, I can open it. It's well wrapped. Here we go. Let's have a look here. Oh, look. Oh, wow. It's a whole load of them. It's a whole load of Panwo bookmarks. Right, I'll be giving. All right, I'll give those out with Roswell Rising. My copies of Roswell Rising. I'll say, have a bookmark as well as sign. See, I can just like fan them. Like, look at that. Isn't that cool? I can put them in the books. Oh, it's wonderful, brilliant. Thank you. That's brilliant. Oh, and I've got this other book. I mustn't forget this. I mustn't forget this other box. That's to be opened if I reach the end of the poem. I'll do that in a minute. Let's clear off the bats, and there's something really big here now. I'll just clear off the bats and the pumpkins. Who needs Christmas, eh? Who needs Christmas when you've got Halloween presents like this, eh? Blimey, that's right. Here we go. I don't think I have to cut these. Yes, or will I? I think I will. Sorry, I'll have to cut them. There we go. That's it. Oh, it's a book. Yeah, another book like the last one was really good. The comic book. What's this? I think it's a book. Get all the bats and the pumpkins off. Oh my goodness. Yeah. Here we go. Oh, they're all sticking to me. They're sticking to me. Oh my god. Oh my god, that's spooky. They're sticking to me. There's another one. Oh my god. Oh, get off, get off, get off. Right. What's in here then? Ooh. It is a book. Oh, now there's some more bats. Oh, it's lots of books. Oh, it's copies of... Oh, brilliant. It's copies. It's additional copies of Letters Foul by the Porter's Poet. Oh, right. Those will go to... Those go with the Panway bookmarks. And I will give them to... I'll give them to all my friends. I'll give them to all my friends who are in the story. Oh, brilliant. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. I've given them the... Yeah, I gave them the copies of their other things, so here we go. Well, there's some more. There's more. There's some more. What's this? There's more. Oh, there's something in here. There's something in here, ladies and gentlemen. Yes, it is. It is. What's this? Oh, well, it's got lots of... It's got spiders and pumpkins and bats inside. And it says, look, a non-skeptic. Oh, wow. A non-skeptic. All in Scrabble tiles. Oh, brilliant. Oh, that'll... My goodness, that will make me popular in the office. Oh, wicked. Thank you. Thank you very much. Now then, where are we going? I'll just have to clear out a few of these now. All right. I've got to... I haven't given copies of the book to everyone yet. The last book I'm talking about. I'm sorry. I gave one to Colin. I've got to give some to the others as well. Sorry about that. I will give everyone their copies of both books. So apologies for that. I will do. Right, I'll just clear off all these bats and pumpkins. That's right. I'll tell you what. When the trick-or-treaters come round, I know what to throw at them. I have no shortage of things to throw at them. I'll give them a few of these pumpkins as well. Oh, there's some more pumpkins on the bats. Here we go, right. Oh, there's lots of things. Oh, there's some things here. There's some things. Oh my goodness, what's this? What is this? Ghostbusters popping candy. Haha! Look! Ghostbusters popping candy. Apple flavour. Oh my god. What do you do with this? I think you just throw it into something and oh my goodness. I'll tell you what, I'll ask Louisa, my daughter, she'll know what to do with these. Oh brilliant, fantastic. Thank you. I'm sure that'll go down nicely. And here we have Halloween lollies. Oh, lovely. Halloween lollies. Those will be delicious. Mmm. Oh, chocolate lollipops, fantastic. A pumpkin one as well. Orange chocolate, my goodness. Right, what are those on there? Oh, this is a bottle. It's a bottle. Oh my goodness. It's a bottle, ladies and gentlemen. I have a bottle. Right. What have we here? It's a bottle of something. And because it's Halloween, what else but Hobgoblin Gold? Thank you very much. Have a nice drink for Halloween then. Lovely. Hobgoblin Gold. The unofficial beer of Halloween 2016. It's a special Halloween bottle. They had these at Paraforce, actually. They were drinking these. So they brought them in specially for the conference, so that's fantastic. Where's the dice? I'll put the dice back in their bag. Hang on, I'll put the bag down here. Ooh. That's it, I'll just put that there. Right, so that's that bottle. Right. And now then, what else is here? Well, there's another bottle. There's another bottle. Oh my goodness. It's a smaller bottle. Oh my goodness, a smaller one. What is it? A mini hobgoblin? A leprechaun? A sprite? Let us see. Oh my goodness. It's woo! Woo woo! Is there a drink called woo woo? A blend of cranberry. Oh yeah, you in the story. Woo woo's in the story, of course. I didn't know there was a cocktail called woo woo. Ready to drink. A blend of cranberry juice from concentrate, peach schnapps, and premium vodka, mixed by the authentic cocktail. My goodness, I didn't know there was a cocktail called woo woo. That'll amuse. I'm sure that'll amuse all my skeptic viewers. No end. Blimey. Oh, there's another bottle. There's another bottle. There's another one. Right. What's this? This is the Sprite, I think. Sprite, yeah, of course. Oh, it will be, won't it? It'll be Sprite. That is a drink, isn't it? Sprite. But it is not. It's Old Spooky Hen. Fine. Of course, Spooky Hen. Special Halloween bottle. Of course, Old Spooky Hen rather than Speckled Hen. Brilliant, brilliant. My goodness, I'll have a very merry Halloween indeed. Right, so I'll just put all the bags, so put all these things away. Is that everything? I think that's everything. I'll just sort these things through. I don't want to leave anything because I know how much the Porter's Poet puts into bags, into these boxes. There's always little surprises in these boxes. I've had 3 or 4 of them now, and I love them. I'm so glad. I mean, I wonder what. There we go. Oh, that's it. That's nice. So the rest is all these little round treats which I can give to the trick-or-treaters, which is lovely. That's cool. And of course the pumpkins and bats, so that's great. That's fantastic. So well, that's not everything though. That's not everything. I have something else here. I'll put the box over here. I have something else. Oh, let's put the pumpkins and bats in the box. Right, what's this? Oh, it's covered in cobweb anyway. Now this is a thing which said to be opened when you reach the end of the poem. I remember I opened something preemptively last time, so the Porter's Poet has made sure that how much time have I got left? That's great. I'm just checking. I've got the camera on the main, so I don't need to worry about the battery. To be opened when you reach the end of the poem. And let's peel off the spider's webs. Peel off the spider webs, and it's oh my god, it's a copy of my book. I don't believe it. It's a copy of my book. That's what it looks like to me. It looks like a copy of my book. Let's open it up. Let's open it up and see. Let's open it up and find out. Oh my god. Whoa! What's in here? Roswell Rising, a novel of disclosure by Ben Emlyn Jones. That's my book. But it doesn't look like my book, does it? It doesn't look anything like my book. It's a bit thicker and a bit harder. I haven't brought out, and it's got a traditional back. I haven't brought out a hardback edition, I promise you. What's since? Oh! Whoa, 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 whoa! My goodness. There's a spider. There's a key ring, which is B, Scrabble B. That's my name, Ben. And lots of coins. And they're good old, not chocolate coins. And they're good old British chocolate coins, not the horrible euros you get in sometimes 5 pences, 2 pences, and £1. Yes, not the bloody euros. And there's something here underneath. With the coins. And that'll make you free. Congratulations! Here is your cash prize for surviving your Halloween haunt. And there are the chocolate coins, and there is my cash prize. And inside, oh my goodness, what's in here? Here's your cash prize. Ooh. And there's going to be what's in here. Oh my goodness. Oh wow. Oh my goodness. Thank you very much. Thank you. £50. My goodness. Blimey. Thank you. Oh wow. Oh, that's fantastic. It's beautiful. It's amazing. Oh wow. I'm overwhelmed. I am. Oh, wow. Thank you. This is all quite incredible. It's been... Wow. Anyway, yeah. Oh. I tell you what, right? I went out after doing that last shoot, and I bumped into my housemate Ahmed, and I scared the shit out of him. He's Muslim. I think he thought I was a jinn. Anyway, I don't know what to say. It's just, I don't know how you do this, Sophie. I know you don't want to be identified. I called you Sophie. That's your name. I won't tell anyone anything else about you. But I honestly don't know how you do it. It's incredible, the work you put into this. I'm utterly flabbergasted and truly humbled by what you do. I really am. And all the things you've done. This is the best ever. And my cape's coming off. Oh my god. This is really the best ever. And I just want to say thank you very much for this wonderful present. I'll make sure I hand out the books to everyone. Everyone's going to get one. And I've I'm sorry I didn't hand the other books out just yet. I will do. I could have done it at Pro, and I forgot to put them in my bag. I promise I will take. I'm going to see some of them on London this Saturday, and I will take some with me. I promise, and give them to them. So that's really, really good. And I just have absolutely fantastic. I've loved every minute of it. It's been reading through the book and playing the game, and that has been just absolutely brilliant. I just think fantastic. And it's a wonderful story, and the way you craft it and everything is absolutely brilliant. And there's so many in-jokes that probably someone who's not familiar with me and what I do may not get all the jokes, but those of you who are will get them immediately. Anyway, I wish I could give you something back that was of equal worth. I'm not sure I can, but what I can do is I can give you my own little present for you and your partner and your family, but also for everyone else watching and everyone else who's supported me over the years. I've got a little present for you guys, and you're going to get it now. What this is a live recording of my short story Ouija, which you heard referred to several times. There were several little jokes in the Porter's Poet story, which draw from Ouija, the short story you're about to hear. And at the end of that, I'll tell you a little bit more about the story, about how I got the idea. But it's just really, really good to me. It's uplifting. It's cheery. What's happened, what you've done for me, Porter's Poet, Sophie. Because I need it right now. I need to be cheered up because I've had a crappy week. I really have. It's been a bit of a bummer, shall we say. So I do hope you enjoy Ouija. It is a story with a Halloween theme, which is just exactly what we all need right now. It's spooky, it's ghostly, and it's supernatural. And I hope you'll find it funny, interesting, entertaining, and maybe thought-provoking. So, happy Halloween, everybody. And I'll take you now over to a little dinner party where a man is preparing to meet some old friends for a reunion. And he's brought them a special present.
Ouija by Ben Emlyn Jones. Colbert ran his fingers over the Ouija board. It was smooth, unblemished, reflective like a mirror, solid silk. Just for old time's sake, he muttered to himself. Will they even remember? The board was an oblong about 18 inches across with fluted corners. The 26 letters of the English alphabet were arranged in 2 arcs across the centre of the upper surface. They were all capitals in an archaic, bookish typeface. There were a few punctuation marks beside them. Along the bottom was a straight row of numbers, 1 to 9, and then a 0. At the top left was the word yes, at the top right was no, and in the middle hello and goodbye. Colbert picked up the pointer, known as a planchette. It was a heart-shaped rosewood pebble. The top side was slightly roughened to provide a hand grip. The underside had 3 little blocks with steel ball bearings mounted at the ends. He placed the planchette on the board and gave it a little shove. It glided across the glassy surface and came to rest halfway between yes and goodbye. He watched it for a few moments, as if expecting it to move by itself. Colbert heard a key in the front door and Davy's familiar footsteps tramping in through the porch. "All right," Davy growled as he entered the lounge and dropped a pile of shopping bags on the floor without looking at him. They clanged voluptuously, clearly full of bottles. "Good day at the office?" asked Colbert. "Comparatively." "Is that for tonight?" Colbert pointed at the bags. "No, it's a few extras for next week's sitpee. By the way, I've got the rent." He reached into the pocket of his jeans and passed Colbert a roll of banknotes. "Thanks, Davs. You're the most reliable lodger I've ever had." Davy didn't respond. He was gaping at the Ouija board on Colbert's lap. "Oh my, nothing?" He broke into a grin. "You didn't." Colbert shrugged. Davy's face took on a half-amused, half-exasperated grimace. "I thought you were kidding. I never imagined you would take that whole fiasco seriously enough. Was it expensive?" £90 I picked it up at Honest Fred's." Davy inflated his cheeks. "A virtual bargain." He leaned forward and picked up the board. He flipped it over and read the brass plate on the underside. Looks like you got yourself a full original. Must be old, early 1900s at the latest. It's in excellent condition." "Waddington's? I thought Hasbro owned the copyright." "What, do you think this is a game?" "It is a game. In the 19th century, when Ouija was first introduced to the West, it was a novelty. It was marketed as a board game. Its use as a tool for spiritualist divination was not originally taken seriously." "Really?" "Really. It's from the same people who brought you the likes of Monopoly and Risk." "How do you know all this stuff, Davs?" Davy ran a hand through his greying black hair. "Sitpee. I've a feeling I'm going to have a good story to tell at the next meeting." "How many of these skeptics in the pub groups are there?" "Over 50 nationwide now, hundreds across the world in over 20 countries. It's pretty much the same format from pole to pole. Get together, eat, drink, and make rationalist merry." Colbert paused. "On the subject of good stories, you will be, nice this evening, won't you?" "Do you mean, will I not be a complete tosser and gleefully shoot down their sky-high dreams in a flaming blaze of horrific glory?" Colbert chuckled. Yeah, kind of." Davy raised an eyebrow. "Cole, I promise you, unlike Tim Minchin, my diplomacy dike will suffer no cracks." "To be honest, I don't even know if they still believe in it. It was 20 years ago. I've only really brought along this board for a laugh. It meant so much at the time. I believed it myself for a while. Well, sort of." "Do you still?" Colbert hesitated. He wondered why afterwards. "No, not really. I'm glad to hear it. It's not as if the Ouija hasn't been comprehensively discredited by serious skeptic researchers many times over. The messages that appear to come from it are caused by the idiomotor effect. The person or people holding the planchette are moving it themselves. There's no spirit guiding their hands. They do it subconsciously, but they think it's movement being produced from outside them. You ever driven down a bumpy road?" Colbert nodded. "You know when the wheel is jerking around in your hands because of the uneven surface? It can sometimes feel like you're making those jerks happen. That's another example." Colbert laughed. "The girl in the dorm next door didn't half kick up about it. She was very religious, Bibles all over her shelves kind of thing. She said we might raise the devil." "Ho ho, I can just imagine her. Now, there are dangers from using the Ouija, but I don't think that's one of them. The real risk comes if you believe too much in the veracity of what information you're getting, and take action on it. I mean, suppose I used one of those things when I was a kid, and it told me to sneak some whiskey into the house on my bar mitzvah." "That could be awkward." "Oh, it was." Davy winked. You mean that's what you did? Yes, but I didn't get the idea from a Ouija board. Colbert drove down to the supermarket. The sky was bloated and purple. Specks of rain exploded on the windscreen. He picked up 2 cases of wine, red and white. He chose a bottle of vodka and 3 different mixers, some beer 6-packs, and then steak, potatoes, greens, salad, olives, crisps, and as many tubs of ice cream he could fit into the car. He also picked up some vegetarian food on request of one of his visitors. He returned home and stowed the produce away. "It's a college reunion, Cole, not a triple wedding," chuckled Davy. He was lounging on the settee, his skinny body stretched out, smoking with his feet up on the puffy. He was still dressed in his jeans and the dirty leather jacket he wore at work. "Davs, will you please get scrubbed up? They'll be here in half an hour." Colbert ran upstairs and leapt into the shower. After washing and shaving, he examined himself in the mirror. Having memorised his appearance in the photographs taken at university, the last time he'd met his old friends, he was pleased to see how little he'd changed. 20 years had not aged him as much as it seemed to most people. No doubt they would recognise him instantly. Would they? He had never found either of them attractive, even though he knew they had both been very pretty young women by anybody's standards. He had never even considered attempting any sexual advances on either of them. Female friends are such a wonderful thing, he mused. The platonic company of a woman, free from the pressures of lust, is an incredibly underrated experience. He realised at that moment that he'd missed Gail and Chippy badly over the last 2 decades and couldn't believe he'd failed to stay in touch with them. He then dressed, went to the kitchen and put the steak in the grill. The white wine in the fridge was chilling down well, but he decided to give it 10 minutes in the icebox to speed it along. Davy walked in wearing a suit and spectacles. Colbert almost dropped his wooden spoon, in shock. "Well, well, well, who'd have thought it? Do you like it, Cole? I had no idea you even possessed any clothes like that. I didn't know you wore glasses." "Only for reading, or reading billboards and road signs, that is. I just thought from what you said this Chippy is rather hot. I want to be able to see her clearly." "Well, she was back then." "How about Gail?" "She's married." "Will her husband be here?" Colbert sighed with a half grin and replied in a monotone, "Yes." Davy facepalmed. "Damn!" "You could try and score with Chippy, but she was a bit of a challenge in her time, very picky." "Don't you have any idea what these 2 shixers look like? I mean, what about their Facebook photos?" "They haven't posted any. Gail has sunsets and mountains on her page. With Chippy, it's mostly cats." Davy walked over to the fridge. "Any chance of an aperitif before they arrive?" "Help yourself." He whipped out a can of beer and took it through to the lounge. Colbert followed him with a glass of wine. The Ouija board was sitting on the coffee table, its planchette in the neutral position right in the centre. Both men stared at it. A sudden chill seemed to come over the room. Colbert looked up at Davy and noticed he felt it too. Even a skeptic was not immune. "So," began the latter, "what's the story behind this pile of crap?" He gestured at the board. "Phew. A very long story. It all began in my second year at Southampton. I got fed up with the people I was bedded with and moved off campus. Got a room in this townhouse a few streets away. Anyway, that's where I met them. Chippy, real name Christine, this very flighty, happy-go-lucky girl, a term into her course on some God knows what obscure expressionist humanities thing. Anyway, she was also very into the supernatural, had her shelves crammed with books on witchcraft, ghosts, the occult, paranormal, psychic stuff. And she also had a Ouija board. Very similar to this one." He pointed at the table. "She never used it, though. I think she was scared to. They have a reputation in the sphere of people who believe in that kind of thing, that they're dangerous. They can conjure up evil spirits and demons and anything else nasty you can think of." Davy nodded. "Yes, they've been the basis of many horror movie plots." And then Gail moves in. Gail, this quieter, calmer girl, a bit shy. She was more scientifically minded than Chippy, reading physics. She went on to do an electrical engineering course in the end. My kind of girl. Chuckled. Sorry. She went on to do electrical engineering in the end. My kind of girl, chuckled Davy, sipping his beer from a can. Well, you'd have thought so. However, a couple of weeks later, Gail is in Chippy's room for some reason, and she spots the Ouija board, which was tucked under Chippy's bed or something, and she starts talking about it. She wants to know all about it. This was really weird because we never imagined Gail could possibly have any interest in that sort of thing. Her own room was the mirror opposite of Chippy's. Academic textbooks, science journals lying around, about posters on a wall of Newton and Einstein, diagrams of atoms, that kind of thing. But Gail is insistent, so Chippy very reluctantly pulls out the Ouija board and dusts it off. And then, this is the really weird bit, Gail says, let's try it. And we were all gobsmacked. Blimey, I bet you were. Odd behaviour for a physitrix. So we take the board down to the den and put it on the table. Gail sits at the head of the table and picks up the planchette. And then, it's just like Stephen King. She puts both hands on the planchette and rolls the thing in circles on the board with her eyes closed, chanting, Is anybody there? Is anybody there? And then, sure enough, zip! The planchette points towards yes. Davy laughed and hummed the theme to the Twilight Zone. You know, it was really creepy. It didn't look like she pushed it. It was as if it moved under its own steam and dragged Gail's hands along. That's not a difficult illusion to do if you practice. It's a mime. You've seen that YouTube video of the bloke being pushed along by a balloon? Maybe, but we all gasp. Then I pick up a pen and paper and start writing. As the planchette points to the various letters and numbers, we start asking questions and it answers. Gail is like in some kind of trance. Nothing's moving except her hands on the planchette. Really fast, almost too quick for me to write down the letters. It was zip, 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 back and forth. At the end of the session, some of the varnish had been worn off the board's top. Chippy is flabbergasted. Her jaw is on the floor and her eyes are popping out of her head. Her face is as white as a sheet. You know, I have a feeling that Chippy never really believed in all that stuff until then. You reckon? Yeah, she told us she did, and she had lots of books on it all, like I said, but I think deep down she never really actually took it seriously. Not until that evening. Did she change after that? Yes, very much so, but I'll come to that in a minute. The messages and answers to our questions are dropping in thick and fast. To cut a long story short, the spirit that is coming through via the Ouija board is called Reardon. It lives in the spirit world. It used to be incarnate in the body of a Catholic priest from France in the 18th century. This man died during a riot stirred up by a local Jacobin leader. His church was burnt down and he was stabbed to death by the mob. His soul went up to the spirit world and he was surprised to find it was not like the heaven he was taught about by the church. There was no judgment or hellfire. It was beautiful. A beautiful place to go. It was a beautiful place where we all go after we die. He described it in great detail. Magnificent cities of gold, glorious countryside, blue skies, sweet air, flowers, butterflies. You didn't believe in it yourself. You didn't believe it yourself, did you, Cole? Davy leaned forward with a genuinely concerned expression. Colbert paused. No, not especially. You don't sound too sure. He raised an eyebrow. Well, it did make me think. A little bit. Davy sighed. It's a ruse, Cole. Complete bullshit. Gail was acting. She was having you on. Steady on, Dav. She'll be meeting her tonight. Sorry, I'll be nice. Don't worry. It's just that I've studied this kind of vacuous shite. It's been around for many, many years, and I know that it's been made up by some very skilled individuals who are putting on a good charade. I know, Davs, but it wasn't just all that flannel about the afterlife that made me uncertain. There's more. We tested it. What do you mean you tested it? I let Chippy take over the pen and paper while I ran upstairs to my bedroom. I plucked a book off my shelf and shouted down the stairs, "What book am I holding?" The message was Porterhouse Blue by Thomas Sharp. And was it? Yes. There was a long silence. Davy shrugged. Interesting coincidence. Davs, there were over 100 books on my shelf. It was more than just interesting. Did you like that book? Yes, it was great. Well, maybe Gale knew you liked it and guessed that you'd gravitate towards that book then. A bit of a long shot, that. Sometimes a good illusionist has to take risks, and sometimes those risks pay off. But that wasn't the only test. I then went over to my TV and grabbed a VHS tape off the top and yelled, "I'm holding a video cassette. What is the film on it?" What film was it? Forrest Gump. And yes, the board got it right again. Davy once again sighed in his characteristic way and scratched his wrist. A sardonic expression came over his face. Colbert had privately begun to call that his skeptic face. What year was this? 1994. The year Forrest Gump was released. It was the second highest grossing film of the year after Disney's The Lion King. Winner of 6 Academy Awards and 3 Golden Globes. It also topped the VHS sales charts. At the time, it was by far the most likely video anybody would have owned. If I'd been forced into a position where I had to guess... Colbert laughed. Skeptic and movie buff. Davy, I had no idea. Skeptics are movie buffs, he replied, and sports buffs, train spotters, and any other kind of unusual field of information gathering imaginable. Colbert paused. You checked it on your phone, be honest, when I wasn't looking. Why do you think I always win the SitP quiz? Davy raised his arm and rolled back his shirt cuff. Secreted inside was his iPhone. Perhaps Gale did something similar. This was the early 90s. Are you saying she had all the year's film stats installed on her Game Boy? She might have rigged up your bedroom with CCTV. You really underestimate the determination and intelligence of a good stage magician. Who knows how long she'd been plotting this farce, what contingencies she thought of. Colbert blushed. Oh dear, I hope she didn't see... See what, you naughty boy? They both laughed. Seriously though, said Colbert, that's pushing it a bit. Hidden cameras in my bedroom, unbelievable guesswork. Come on, Davs, you must admit I was correct to pause for thought. Davy stood up and went to the kitchen to get another beer. When he came back he asked, Have you ever heard of Occam's razor? No, I use Gillette. Very original, Cole. Occam's razor is the principle of parsimony, economy of logic, succinctness of thought. Speak English, Davs. Sorry, it's a reasoning system that states if you need to solve a problem or clear up a mystery, always choose the most likely explanation first. For example, if your radio stops working, try changing the batteries before opening it up, sticking in a screwdriver, because flat batteries is by far the most likely explanation for the malfunction of the radio. What's that got to do with Ouija boards? Everything. Which is more likely, that a young woman in the 1990s, sitting in a house in Southampton, managed to channel some long-dead French clergyman using a wooden board, or that she actually played some kind of elaborate trick on you all using very down-to-earth, well-tested methods of illusion? There was a crunch of gravel in the driveway. They looked out of the window to see a large saloon car parking. They're here! Davy, please! Carl, it's all right, I'll be gentle with them. Colbert hid the Ouija board under the settee and then headed for the front door. He reached it at the very moment the bell rang. He opened it up. Gale? Hello, Collie, she smiled. You haven't changed a bit. Neither of you. And she hadn't. She was a petite woman, slim and straight. Her hair was still thin and shoulder length. There were a few lines of grey in it, along with a few creases on her face. Apart from that, she was exactly as she'd looked when he'd last seen her almost 20 years ago, lining up in the great hall with her gown and mortarboard to collect her degree. She held out her hand formally. He reached out and shook it. Her grip was limp and cold. Come in, Gale. Where's Chippy? Picking Jono up from the airport. Your husband? Yes. Her voice was deadpan and dispassionate. "Good afternoon!" Davy cantered forward with a charming smile. "You must be Gale. I'm David. Can I get you a drink?" As he led her to the kitchen, he looked back at Colbert and mouthed what looked like, "Her husband's not here yet." One thing that had changed beyond all recognition was Gale's choice of clothes. At university she was almost always seen in a scraggy blouse and a long moth-eaten skirt. Today she wore a smart blue suit and cravat with lady pants and black platforms. Expensive-looking jewellery peeked out from her cuffs, neckline and earlobes, very different to the crepe bands that used to decorate her body, though strangely she wore no wedding ring on her finger. She chose the white wine, and they sat and talked. Davy characteristically flirted in his benign way, but she didn't seem to notice, let alone object. She and Colbert had a long conversation about the intervening 20 years. After they had parted, Gale had kept in touch with Chippy, and the two of them lived in the same town and were very close friends. Gale had graduated in electrical engineering and enjoyed a long and lucrative career working in industry. She was currently a project manager at a contractor in aviation. She'd married her husband Jonathan 12 years earlier. He was an executive at Boeing, and they'd met while she was on a stint there. She spoke calmly, quietly, and very modestly as she gave Colbert and Davy the verbal curriculum vitae of her highly successful life. It was now that Colbert did detect a difference between the Gale he saw before him and the Gale he'd known in Southampton. This poised and self-possessed young woman was today even more subdued. She had not smiled once since greeting Colbert. She became particularly taciturn when the subject of her husband came up. She declined to give any details of him or their life together. He and Chippy were running very late. It was now 6 p.m. and starting to get dark. The three of them had had a few drinks, and the dinner was cooked. There was no choice but to serve it. So they sat round the dining room table, while Colbert pulled the steak out of the grill and drained the vegetables. Suddenly Gale raised her head. "Chippy and Jono are here," she said. Colbert looked out of the window. The drive was empty. "Where? I can't see them." "They're here," she asserted. Davy caught Colbert's eye furtively in a nonchalant statement. A minute later they heard the sound of a car's engine revving loudly, and headlights burned the driveway. An old and decrepit Volkswagen Beetle screeched onto the gravel and stopped next to Gale's much larger saloon. Two figures decamped and ran over to the doorway. The bell rang. "Colbo!" The moment Colbert opened the door, a large woman hurled her arms around him, squeezing him painfully tight. Silk flowers rubbed against his face, and he was almost choked by her perfume. "Colbo, Colbo, Colbo! How are you? It's utterly cosmic to see you again, my darling. So sorry we're late, but you wouldn't believe the traffic. The entire M40 shut down. We had to sneak back along the hard shoulder to the last junction. Miracle we never got stopped by the police. Still, the universe was on our side. These things are either meant to be or meant not to be." Chippy continued her detailed narrative of their perilous journey from the airport. Conversely from Gale, she had changed beyond all recognition. She had put on a considerable amount of weight, and even joked about it. "I always say, can you pinch more than an inch? Do you give a shit? Ha 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 ha." She used to have sandy blonde hair. Now it was woven into henna-coloured dreadlocks punctuated by ribbons. She wore a tie-dyed dress with designer tatters. Her chest was decorated by bangles, pendants, crystals, and amulets of various kinds in turquoise, jade, and burnished copper, a stark contrast to Gale's more conventional jewellery. As with Gale, her personality traits at university had become exaggerated with time. She had always been the most outgoing member of the household. Today she could hardly stop talking. The entire atmosphere of the room transformed when she entered. It was like stepping from a wine bar into a rock pub. She was accompanied by Jono, Gale's husband. He was a tall and well-built man wearing an expensive-looking suit. He had small, rheumy eyes, an acne-scarred face, and his lips were thin. He had a gold tooth. His greasy black hair was pulled into a tight ponytail. He introduced himself, and Colbert didn't remember him uttering a word after that. With another of their silent eye-to-eye dialogues, Davy and Colbert remarked at how he had not attempted to greet his own wife. Gale could Gale barely looked at him. She concentrated on dissecting her flat mushroom as the two newcomers settled down at the table. Jono chose a seat beside Chippy, opposite Gale. "Hello, Gale, dear." Chippy waved across the table to her old friend, as if they were hundreds of yards apart. Gale grinned for the second time that evening. "Hi, Chippy. Good to see you again." Chippy filled in the last 2 decades with a boisterous monologue. She and Gale had bought a flat together in Wiltshire, and while Gale was away working, Chippy had set up a shop in Glastonbury. It purveyed all kinds of esoteric merchandise, from crystals to cauldrons to books on flying saucers and the paranormal to psychic powers to Stonehenge. A very different lifestyle to your flatmate, noted Davy. You two are an unusual partnership. Colbert was amused to see that Davy displayed none of the ardour towards Chippy that he had anticipated earlier in the evening. "Well, you know what they say," put in Gale. "Opposites attract." She glanced at Jono. "It's interesting," continued Davy, taking a sip from his wine glass. On the one hand we have Gale, scientifically trained, a professional engineer, rooted in logic, experiment, and reason. On the other, we have you, Chippy, who is, would it be fair to say, more mystically inclined." Definitely, David, dear." Chippy swallowed a large hunk of her vegetarian patty. "I never used to be in my youth, but I had a spiritual awakening. You know, that's a bit of a silly cliche, like I'm a hippie of some kind, but it's the best description. It's not religious, you understand. It's not like being a born-again Christian or anything like that. I just suddenly realised that I was one with everything, and that nature, the landscape, the planet Earth were all things to be worshipped and adored. We are all part of that, down to our very souls." "Chippy, I've never understood the concept of the soul. What is meant by it?" Chippy frowned at him. "Have you really not, David?" "No, I'm aware that I have a brain, a mind, a personality, but I don't see how any additional concept is needed to explain those things." "Heavens to Krishna, David! Do you honestly think that all you are is electrical signals in your brain?" "It makes sense to me." "But your brain is just meat, like your arm or your liver." "Yes, but it's a very sophisticated and complex piece of meat." "But surely you can't believe that your brain is all there is to you? You, your sense of I, and me. Do you not accept that there must be more to us than that?" No, I don't. I'm quite satisfied that my consciousness is a byproduct of electrical currents and chemical reactions deep inside here." He pointed at his head. Chippy was speechless, which was such an unusual situation that everybody stopped eating and stared at her. "David, you can't be serious. If what you're saying is true, then what about when you die?" Davy shrugged. "What about it?" "Well, what do you think will happen to you?" "The same thing as what happens to everybody. I shall be buried in the ground, and my body will be consumed by microbes and earthworms until I am just bones. Those bones might survive a few 100,000 years, unless, on the off chance they become fossilized, my body will return to nature." "But your body's not you. You?" "I think it is. I know what you mean in the sense that there is a me beyond my body, but that will purely be in terms of memories of my life stored in other people's brains. Hopefully they will be fond ones. However, in essence, I am my body and nothing else." But that means when you die, yourself will cease to exist. You will become nothing forever. How can you live like that?" Davy tittered. Now I know how David Hume felt." "Who?" "It doesn't matter." He sighed. "Chippy, I can live perfectly happy like that because I believe I have no other choice. I believe that is the nature of the universe, and if that is the case, then we just have to accept it. Life is a precious opportunity that we are incredibly lucky to have gained. It has been denied to countless other potential individuals. Life is short, painful, and very finite, but it's also a wonderful gift. Let's make the most of it." Chippy continued to gape at him for a few moments, then seemed to relax. I see. Of course, David, you're entitled to your opinions. However, are you absolutely certain you're correct? Have you examined the issue in its fullest detail? Yes, I have. I'm very interested in psychical research, just like you are. The difference is, I conclude that it's a total non-issue. It doesn't exist. But why? One has to accept the null hypothesis. There is simply no evidence for any other conclusion. Chippy paused, and then her eyes widened, and she smirked triumphantly. Yes, there is. She shot a finger at Gale. Gale, tell him. Gale looked up at her. Tell him what? Colbert leaned back in his chair. He knew what was coming. Chippy continued. It was you who persuaded me. I never believed it until then. That night with the Ouija board. Oh, that, said Gale. Yes, that. David, dear, Gale here has psychic powers. She's extremely spiritually sensitive. One evening, while we were at uni, she proved it to us. Chippy enthusiastically related the tale of the Ouija board to Davy, while Colbert slid away from the table. He had been waiting for an appropriate moment for his big surprise, and now that the subject had been tabled, the hour had struck. He lifted his Ouija board carefully out from its hiding place and returned to the dining room. He hadn't wrapped it in any way, so he just had to hide it behind his back. Chippy was concluding her story. And Colbert was there too. He'll back me up, won't you, Collie? She turned and looked at him. Colbert grinned slyly. Oh, yes, I was there. I saw everything. It was an unforgettable incident. So unforgettable, in fact, that I've brought you all a little souvenir of it. Ta-da! He placed the Ouija board on the table between the Cabernet Sauvignon bottle and the salt cellar. Oh, my! Bubbled Chippy. A Ouija board! Is it the same one? No, I never found out what became of that one. It may still be at that old house in Southampton. I bought this one from an antique shop. Chippy picked up the planchette. It's beautiful. It brings back such happy times. Thank you, Collie. Thank you. A wistful expression came over her face. Davy picked up his wine glass again. Chippy, would you say that the Ouija board session all that time ago in university has been very influential in your life? Oh, you can say that again, David. It was the most magnificent and joyful experience that has ever happened to me. It changed my life forever. On that night, I finally understood that beyond us lies the world of soul. We are not just flesh and blood, meaningless mechanical automata waiting for the grave. We are spiritual beings having a human experience. We are eternal, all-knowing and all-powerful. We are one with the universe and God. Collie and I had the good fortune to become undeniably aware of this. On that night, thanks to my darling friend Gale, it was proved to us once and for all. Is this true, Gale? Gale had remained silent during this discourse, politely following the conversation between Davy and Chippy. Now she instantly replied to Davy's question. Oh, yeah. So you concur with Chippy? You agree that you are in fact psychic? I suppose so, she shrugged. Davy frowned at her. Then he looked away for a minute, contemplating hard. He spoke immediately as he raised his head. I have a proposition for you. For all of you. What's that, dear? Asked Chippy. Davy took a long gulp of wine. I've been absolutely enthralled by this subject, the story you have all just told me. I know some people who would also be very keen to hear what happened to you all on that evening 20 years ago. I help run a meet-up group in London that regularly gets together to discuss the very kinds of phenomena that we're talking about this evening, and I'd love you all to be our guests one night. Colbert caught Davy's eye and gave him a warning glare, but Davy ignored him. We'll pay all your travelling expenses and provide accommodation if you need to stay overnight. That sounds lovely, doesn't it, Gale, dear? Said Chippy. Shall we do it? What's your group called, David? Davy gave an apprehensive pause. Bloomsbury Skeptics in the Pub. Chippy gasped. What? It's a small, friendly bunch who are always very respectful. You mean you're a skeptic? She recoiled from Davy physically, as if he had an infectious disease. Yes, I thought you'd have guessed from what we were talking about earlier. But why on earth would a pack of skeptics want to hear about us? You said your group had an interest in these phenomena, but you don't. If you're skeptics, then you don't believe in any of it. Not so, Chippy, not so. A skeptic is not somebody who just disbelieves in things. We are people who apportion all claims according to valid logic. We rigorously and openly apply the methods of science and rationality to all information. We study the pitfalls of human reason and the mechanisms of deception so as to avoid being deceived by others or ourselves, and we hold all acceptance provisionally until an empirical study of the available evidence has been carried out. There was a long silence after this. Then Chippy said, "No, thank you, David. I'm sure Gail does not wish to subject herself to the negative energies of a bunch of people who just want to—" "Yes, I do," piped up Gail. She smiled once again. Chippy scowled at her. "Gail, Oh, come on, Chippy, it sounds like fun." "Gail, you really do not want your aura poisoned by the pollution of doubters and debunkers. Do you know what these people are and what they're like?" "Yes, sure I do," said Gail. "As David said, they just want evidence before they accept something to be true. So let's give them the evidence. You were there that night, Chippy. So were you, Colbo. You know what I did was real. You remember it, don't you?" Colbert and Chippy nodded in unison. "So then what is there to be afraid of? The skeptics want evidence. Well, we have evidence. Let's go along there and prove it to them." This notion seemed to appeal to Chippy. "Well, yes, I see what you mean now, Gail. You're right. We have proof that psychic powers are real, because your psychic powers are real. Let's go along to these skeppers in the boozer powwow and rub their smug little noses in the truth." Davy had been watching this exchange with amused interest. "So it's agreed then. Fantastic." He pulled his phone out of his pocket. "We have an available date in October." "Don't worry," said Davy. I was nice at dinner, wasn't I? I'll continue to be nice this evening. You know what I think about this Ouija bollocks, Cole, but I also know how to handle people. The kind of skeptic who wades in slashing and burning, heedless of people's feelings, achieves nothing. Their convert just feels intimidated and insulted, and they'll naturally back off and ignore you. One of the world's most famous skeptics was Carl Sagan, and he himself once said, "People are not stupid. They believe things for reasons. The last way for skeptics to get the attention of bright, curious, intelligent people is to belittle or condescend, or show arrogance towards their beliefs." Very true. My family are orthodox as hell. My mother never skips the Shabbat, and my brother is a rabbi. How the hell could I have even held my family together if I wasn't willing to show respect for non-skeptics? The basis of my strategy is to gently and subtly persuade, guiding the person I'm talking to into discovering the truth for themselves. That's good to know, Davy, thanks. Chippy is not going to enjoy this evening. Oh, I don't know, smiled Davy. She has the psychic engineer to back her up. That's way more than most of her ilk enjoy. The underground train glided to a halt at the station, and they stepped off amidst the moderate weekday evening crowds. "It's odd, you know, Cole," continued Davy. "Gail fascinates me. It's so utterly unusual that somebody with her background comes forward and professes psi. If Chippy had done it, I wouldn't have batted an eyelid. But Gail, a woman with a scientific education who uses science professionally every day, it baffles me." They stepped out of the underground station onto a busy London street. Traffic noise assailed their ears, and the bright lights of shop fronts reflected off the rain-washed pavements. There was a rumble of thunder overhead, and the rainfall suddenly increased, as if on cue. "How far is this place?" yelled Colbert above the noise. "Just past the next crossroads." The Honeyman's Arms sat on the corner of two main roads. It was a modern, clean, urban watering hole with smooth carpets, red wallpaper, and a bar of polished timber lined by brass handrails. The Skeptics in a Pub event was held every week in the basement function room. The signboard outside announced it. Colbert took out his phone and looked at the page on the Bloomsbury Skeptics in the Pub website. Wednesday, the 8th of October, Gail Peveril, Christine Charnwood and Colbert Norton. 20 years ago, as students at the University of Southampton, they claim to have had experienced extrasensory and clairvoyant phenomena while using a Ouija board. The event starts at 7:30 p.m, just £2 entry. The basement was as comfortable as the public bar above them. A number of the skeptics in the pub patrons were buying drinks and taking their seats as Colbert walked in. A few of them gave him a brief look, but generally ignored him. They greeted Davy warmly, and Davy stopped to talk to a few of them. The attendees were mostly middle-aged. They looked very academic, the men dressed in grey suits of corduroys. Their hair tended to be slightly unkempt, and many wore glasses. A large proportion were bearded. The women were all slim and had on mostly long dresses. Their conversation was low, private, and controlled. Different kinds of people sat together in separate groups. Younger men and women who looked like students clustered round the bar, but talking more loudly. There was even the odd leather jacket, just like Davy's. At one end of the room was a small podium with a table and a row of chairs behind it. Colbert's Ouija board lay on the surface between them. Gail and Chippy had already taken their place. Chippy had a large glass of wine at her elbow and was chatting in her usual obtrusive manner. "Collie, David, lovely to see you again." She sounded drunk and smelled strongly of Merlot. Gail was next to her with her chin on her hand, looking bored. As Colbert took his seat, Davy stepped up to the front of the stage. "Good evening, everybody. I hope you can all hear me. We have no microphone tonight. Sorry, Clive has borrowed our PA system for a wedding reception. Unfortunately, he forgot to tell us." The audience laughed at Davy's mock indignation. "Great to see you all here again. I notice a few new faces as well. All the better. Welcome, all of you, to Bloomsbury Skeptics in the Pub. My name is David Birch, and I am the chairman of this group. Tonight we have 3 guests. 3 for the price of 1. More laughter. They have an extremely interesting experience to tell us about this evening, and I suggest we take each of the speakers in turn. Shall we begin with Christine? Christine Charnwood, everybody." The audience applauded. Chippy jumped to her feet, curtsying flamboyantly. She spoke for about half an hour. Despite her previous misgivings, she was manifestly enjoying the attention she was getting and the audience warmed to her, chuckling appreciatively at her jokes. She told the familiar story of the Ouija board in Southampton and how it had affected her life, given her hope and made her pursue a spiritual pathway. She got another round of applause as she sat down. "Now," said Davy, "Colbert, would you like to tell us about what you experienced?" Clearly Davy was saving the best for last. Colbert related the story from his own perspective, but he didn't wish to repeat Chippy's testimony, and she had covered so much of the evening that there was little else he could add. He finished after 5 minutes. A man in the audience raised his hand. "Are you okay to take questions now, Colbert?" Davy asked. "Sure," said Colbert. "Thanks for that interesting introduction, both of you," began the man. "But, Colbert, you said you chose a book and a DVD." "VHS," corrected Colbert. "This was a long time ago, before such advanced technology was available." The audience laughed, but the man seemed satisfied, as if he'd feigned the error as some kind of test. "Yes, it was a long time ago," he repeated emphatically, "and maybe your memory of the incident has faded a bit, but I'll come back to that in a moment. You say that the girl using the Ouija board knew what the book and the movie were via her psychic powers?" Gail remained completely silent and still. She was staring down at her hands on the tabletop. "No," responded Colbert. "I'm not saying that's what it was for definite. I just can't think of any other way she could have gained that information right now." The man smirked in appreciation of his caution. "Is it not more likely that she simply guessed right by coincidence?" Colbert felt his face burn. This was similar to what Davy had suggested to him a few months ago at the dinner. However, Colbert had been reading up on the subject since that evening and had developed some of his own ideas. "Are you talking about Occam's razor?" he asked. "Yes. It states that we should always accept the most likely explanation first. Isn't it more likely that Miss Peveril here was simply lucky? You could put her on the spot, and she guessed right." Colbert looked over at Gail, but she remained unresponsive. "Oh, well, take your time." The questioner had a snide expression on his face. He was clearly playing for the rest of the audience. It made Colbert angry at him. "Well, firstly, Occam's razor assumes we've all agreed on what is more or less likely than any other thing, another thing for a given circumstance. But leaving that aside, why don't you give me another example of a coincidence like this?" The man, to his credit, never broke his stride. "By all means. You make a piece of toast. When it pops out, you're about to spread jam all over it, when you realise that it has an image of the Virgin Mary on it. You call your local vicar, thousands of people queue up to see it, and you sell it on eBay for 50 grand. This kind of thing has actually happened, by the way." The audience nodded, and there were mutters of agreement. Yet it never was an image of the Virgin Mary at all. It's just that the burn marks on the toast happen to resemble the Virgin Mary by pure coincidence, and because our brains are designed to spot recognisable patterns in random noise, they just thought it was the Virgin Mary. This kind of thing is called pareidolia. It's why we see the faces in clouds too, and other things like that. You think that applies to my experience? Yes, it's related. Pareidolia is a combination of coincidence and confirmation bias. He gave Colbert an arrogant 1-0 to me look. "Sorry, Colbert, but I'm calling coincidence on this one. It was a coinkydink. A coinkydink." He repeated the colloquialism as if proud of knowing it. The questioner's antipathy cut Colbert like a blade, but he kept his emotions under control. He also took heart from the fact that he had an excellent comeback in his arsenal. So he paused for effect, with a grin. "What about the Sistine Chapel?" "In Rome?" "Yes, with all the beautiful murals. You know who painted it?" "Of course, Michelangelo." The man looked uncomfortable. Where is he going with this? Did he? How do you know? What? How do you know that Michelangelo didn't just leave a few paint pots standing in the doorway, and a sudden gust of wind blew them into the chapel and spread the paint everywhere, and when Mike came back, he saw the random splatters that had been made by the wind, and he thought, wow, that looks good. The man tittered nervously. Come on, of course it wasn't random. Everybody knows Michelangelo did it. It's historically recorded. Okay, now just suppose that you didn't know that. Just suppose that nobody knew who really painted the Sistine Chapel. Would you still say that it was a real painting and not just pareidolia? Yes, of course. Why? How would you know? There was a long pause. The questioner's former vainglory had completely fallen from his countenance. He looked extremely uneasy. The audience murmured again. Well, but... Take your time. Colbert couldn't resist a sneer. Davy was looking at Colbert quizzically. Colbert mouthed to him, I've been reading, and winked. Now it was the questioner's turn to get angry. He ran his hand over his face. For goodness sake, it's a painting! It's very obvious that it's a painting! But our brains are designed to spot recognisable patterns in random noise, remember? But look! He calmed himself down. Pareidolia always consists of vague blobs that might resemble something, not distinct and obviously artificial images that do mean something. So where's the cut-off point? Eh? Where's the cut-off point between intention and coincidence? I don't understand. Well, let me give you a fictional example, said Colbert. Imagine a bloke who wins the national lottery. He goes out and buys another ticket. The following week he wins again. Then he wins again the third week, and the fourth, and the fifth. By now the police are getting suspicious, so they arrest him. They assume that he must be sneaking in at night and waiting the balls, or fiddling with Lancelot and Guinevere's workings or something. But they can find no direct evidence that he's doing so. Nevertheless, they put him on trial. The man goes into court willingly, because of course he can afford the best lawyer in town now. Laughter from the audience. The prosecution spend all day putting their side across, how this man has won the lottery 5 weeks running against almost incalculable odds. Would you agree with their testimony? Well, of course, said the questioner. Winning the lottery 5 times in a row, the odds against that are so huge that it can't be coincidence. Yet when it's the turn of the defendant to speak, he stands up and he says to the judge, "Your Honour, I'm just a very lucky guy." And then he sits down again, and the court has to acquit him. There's no direct evidence he did anything wrong, so it has no other choice. What? But of course it does! No, it doesn't. The line of defence, "I'm just a very lucky guy," in those circumstances is a legally watertight case. No, it's not. Winning the lottery 5 weeks in a row, that's not coincidence. It can't be. Ah! Colbert didn't waste a moment going for that chink in his armour. Then in that case, as I said, you need to define the cut-off point, the statistical ceiling below which you would feel able to dismiss something as a coincidence, and above which you would not. You must draw that line. What's more, the line has to be drawn at a level everybody agrees on. If you don't draw a line, then what's to stop you unfalsifiably yelling "Coinky Dink" at any inconvenient anomaly you don't like in order to falsely discredit it? The man's face flushed crimson. He bared his teeth. "What the fuck has this got to do with psychically predicting books and VHS tapes?" "No swearing, please, Derek," chided Davy. "Well, you tell me," answered Colbert with raised eyebrows. "You said that it was far more likely to be a coincidence that Gail guessed correctly than for her to have perceived which books I chose via psychic means. But then you have provided no statistical ceiling on that explanation, even though you went on to say, winning the lottery 5 weeks in a row, that's not coincidence, it can't be. You therefore claim to understand the concept of an upper limit to coincidence quantitatively, but you refuse to define it precisely." There was a long silence. Everybody in the room looked nervous, as the deflated questioner sat back down, his body shaking, staring at his feet. Davy also sounded slightly breathless, and he asked, "Any more questions?" "Yes." A woman raised her hand. "I have a question for Christine." Chippy had been enjoying Colbert's victory over the first sceptic questioner, although she didn't look as if she completely understood the exchange. Now she looked over at the second questioner. "Sure, what is it?" "Christine, I found your description very interesting, and I appreciate your honesty, but you came across extraordinarily passionate on an emotional level. No offence, but I'd like you to consider this question: how much your enthusiasm might be motivated by wishful thinking?" "Wishful thinking?" Chippy frowned. "What do you mean?" "Well, for one thing that is clearly very important to you is that you gained from your experience. One thing that's very important to you that you gained from your experience is that you now have a belief in the afterlife. Is that right?" Chippy nodded. "The thing is, science tells us that there is no such thing as an afterlife of any kind. When you die, that's it. End of story. Eternal oblivion. You're dead forever. You no longer exist and never will again. That's a very unwelcome prospect for many people, including yourself, perhaps. Is it not possible that you have a bias towards accepting this experience with the Ouija as proof of the afterlife? And you did use the word proof at least a dozen times during your speech. As a psychological safety net, a comfort blanket if you wish, it protects you from having to face the terrible finality of your own demise." "No," retorted Chippy emphatically. "No way, not a chance. I tell you this because I've seen it with my own eyes. I've actually witnessed it. It's not wishful thinking because it's not something I ever wished for or thought of. It's experience. It actually happened to me." The audience smiled and buzzed in a mildly amused tone, as if watching a child at play. Colbert raised his hand. All through the woman's speech he'd been ready for the off as soon as Chippy finished. He once again had a primed response that he gathered from his studies over the last few weeks. "Davy, can I reply to that lady's point as well?" Davy half grinned at him, as if he sensed what was coming. "Of course, Col." He gave a mock bow. Colbert addressed the woman. "A good point you raised there. Perhaps I can reply by asking you, what do you believe?" "I believe what science says. There's no life after this life we have now. No heaven, no hell, no spirit world. When I die, I will become nothing. The same nothing I was before I was conceived and born." "So why do you think so many people would disagree with you? Why do so many people believe in the afterlife?" "Because they're not able to come to terms with that scientific fact They lack the mental resources. They've collectively conjured up the myth of an afterlife to act as a buffer. It shelters them from the terrible truth of finality, a truth they can't handle. But you can handle that truth, can't you? The woman frowned in the same way the first questioner had. She knew trouble was coming, but didn't know what it was or how to avoid it. Yes, I can. Well, that makes you a very superior person, doesn't it? She chuckled. What? No, not at all. Of course it doesn't. Doesn't it? Correct me if I'm wrong, but it sounds to me like you're saying, I can face it. You quivering, pathetic, inferior lowlifes need this comfort blanket myth of an afterlife, but I have the strength, the courage, the fortitude, and general superiority to get through my day without that crutch. I know I'm going to cease to exist when I die, but I can face up to it. The woman flushed angrily. No, that's not what I think. You are wrong, and I do correct you. I would never try to lord it over somebody else because of my views. I try to respect all people and don't judge those who disagree. Not judge, perhaps, but be honest. You distinctly portrayed people who believe in an afterlife as not able to come to terms with facts. They lack the mental resources. They're people who in need of a comfort blanket, like a child. How can you now claim not to feel any sense of superiority over those kinds of people? Chippy clapped him on the arm. Yeah, right, Collie. The woman sighed, clearly perturbed by Colbert's reply. I really don't know what to say to you. If what I said came across like that to you, then it is not for me to comment on how you comprehend my words. All I can tell you is that I am a respectful and diplomatic person who feels nothing for others but respect, so long as they respect me. Tell you what, continued Colbert, I'm guessing that most of the people in this room agree with this lady, right? There was a reluctant and concerned collective nod. I can't help wondering if your own beliefs are wishful thinking too, maybe even more so than Chippy's. Suppose some scientist came up with what you would consider evidence for the existence of an afterlife. What would you do? Would you be pleased? Some of you might be, but others might feel a bit disappointed. If there was ever proof that the afterlife was real, then you guys would no longer be special. You would no longer be able to enjoy that sense of triumphalism that I detected in that lady's words, no matter what she said, even if she was being sincere. He glanced at the woman, the briefest of apologies. Perhaps, Colbert spoke slowly for emphasis, there are those among you who would deny the fact that the afterlife is real despite scientific proof, out of wishful thinking. In fact, maybe we should devise some kind of bravery award for you all. There was a stunned silence from the audience. The watery clang of a full beer glass being tipped over echoed stridently. Davy composed himself first. Right then, thank you for that interesting response, Colbert. He gave his friend the briefest of sideways looks. I suggest we move on. The audience shuffled their feet, visibly relieved at his words. I think we should bring in the key figure in this case. The alleged psychic herself. Gail Peveril is not your usual class of individual who makes these kinds of claims. She studied physics at university while she was involved in this phenomena. She also trained as an electrical engineer and has worked for Boeing, British Aerospace, Lockheed and many other institutions in top-level jobs. Her reputation is one of the best in the country. Yet she also claims to have channeled spirits of the dead using the Ouija. So, ladies and gentlemen, I give you Gail Peveril. The audience applauded. Gail looked up. She didn't speak. The audience gibbered. Gail still did not speak. She simply stared ahead of her, gazing at the far wall. Gail, hissed Chippy. It's your turn to say something. Davy looked nervous. Gail, are you okay? Fine, she replied. Well, would you like to tell us about what you did 20 years ago in Southampton? Why would I want to do that? She looked at him with raised eyebrows, in a slightly playful way. Davy breathed awkwardly. But Gail, you are the one who operated the Ouija. Colbert and Christine just watched. You're the one with the psychic powers, are you not? No. The collective gasp was deafening. What? Said Davy. I said no, I'm not. Chippy let out a whimper. Gale? Chippy let out a whimper. Gale? Gale got to her feet and addressed the whole room. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm sorry if I brought you here tonight under false pretenses. I lied to you. I lied to you all. She glanced briefly at Chippy and Colbert, deadpan as always, without remorse. I have no psychic powers. I made it up. Chippy leaned back to look into her face. Gale, what are you talking about? You did it, you... Chippy, I made it all up. It was all an act. I'm sorry. It can't be, Gale. Chippy was on the brink of tears. Gale sighed. I thought it would be a good wheeze, like showing people a card trick. I assumed we'd all just have an evening's entertainment and then go back to our normal lives, but that's not what happened. It stayed with you guys. With you especially, Chippy. By the time I realised that, it was too late. You thought... I thought that if I came clean, I'd break your heart, Chippy. You were into this so much that I didn't know what else to do except keep up the pretense. I've been doing that ever since. I can't tell you how difficult it's been for me all these years, watching you build your life around this silly delusion I poisoned you with. Chippy was trembling, as if her body had been hit by an earthquake. Tears flowed down her face. Colbert was numb. He didn't know what to think. Perhaps it was because of this that his rational mind remembered an obvious issue. But Gale, if you faked the whole thing, how did you do it? Remember, I went up to my room. I asked you to identify the book and the video I was holding. You got both right immediately, even though you couldn't see me. I could, Colbo, she answered straight away. There was a gap between the inside edge of your door and the frame. I could glance up the stairs and see the interior of your room from below. But you were facing the wrong way. You had your back to the staircase. There was a mirror on the opposite wall. I saw you through that. Was there? I don't remember any mirror hanging there. I do. It was there. The silence from the audience was different this time. It was not uncomfortable at all. It was the sense of drama, history being made. Some of them were photographing the scene and uploading it to social media via their phones, desperate to be the first in the skeptics in the pub community to break the news. Chippy slowly got to her feet and backed away from the podium, sobbing copiously. You bitch, Gale! You complete and total slag! Gale had an inexplicable smile on her face. She shrugged at Chippy, almost happily. Sorry, Chippy, but you had a right to know. Chippy strutted away out of the bar. She was pulling out her phone as she reached the door, and as she climbed up the stairs to the public bar, Colbert heard her voice talking into it. Jono, it's finished. I'm coming over now. Well. A confession? Davy chuckled to himself. A true, bona fide, positive and unfettered confession. A public confession, too, in front of all those people. And her fellow believers. This is the best thing since Banachek and Project Alpha. And it was at my sitby. He leaned back on the settee and had another sip of brandy. Poor Chippy, said Colbert. It was the evening after the Skeptics in the pub event. Davy and Colbert were back at home in the lounge. They were enjoying a drink to celebrate, or drown their sorrows, depending on how they looked at it. She'll get over it, reassured Davy. She might even find a new lease of life. You know, Susan Blackmore was once a heavyweight woo-woo. Oh, yes, she was just like Chippy. She had a very similar wake-up call, and it was quite a shock to her system. But look at her now, one of the world's top skeptics. Reminds me, I must invite her to be a speaker one day. It didn't really bother me either way, said Colbert. I'm not a believer. I was always agnostic about the whole thing. From day one. I never doubted the possibility that Gale might have pulled a fast one on us. Chippy, though, she was obsessed with it. It's really been a blow to her. Maybe I should find out if she's okay. Davy ignored him. Ho, ho, ho! A public stage confession! I can't believe it! It's all over Facebook, you know. They'll be talking about this for years to come. I've been invited to talk about it on SGU. What's SGU? Skeptic's Guide to the Universe, a radio show. Colbert felt a pang of irritation for his friend. I'm touched by your concern. Davy looked over at him. Come on, Cole, don't be like that. What do you want me to say? Chippy is gutted. Yes, sure she is, but it's all part of a learning process. Many of us have been through it. Does that make it hurt any less for her now? She was humiliated in front of 100 people and millions more on the net. It was a hole she dug for herself. Her happiness was based on a falsehood, and I don't believe in the Platonic noble myth. Her entire sense of her life's mission was constructed on a bubble. It needed bursting. If we hadn't done it last night, somebody else would have eventually. Probably somebody less sensitive and tactful. Colbert huffed non-committedly and took another sip of brandy. The landline rang. Colbert picked it up. Hello? Hi, Colbo. The voice at the other end of the line made his blood chill. Gale? Davy sat up with a jerk and stared at him. Yes, Gale replied. What do you want, Gale? I need to see you, Colbo. See me? Why? Can you come over to my place? I've just texted you my address and postcode for your sat-nav. Why, Gale? Why do you need to see me? Please, Colbo, just come over. Colbert looked at the address and moaned. Gale, that's over 100 miles away. Does it have to be now? Yes. He sighed. All right. Colbert looked at the clock on the dashboard. 11:10 p.m. I hope she gives me a bloody bed for the night, he hissed. It was raining hard outside and a thunderstorm was brewing again. The sat-nav instructed him to take one more turn, then announced that he had reached his destination. Gale's house was large and angular. It sat on the edge of a village in Devon and had a long driveway running down the middle of a well-kept lawn. Her house was modern, and the windows were large. There was a spacious conservatory on the side of the building. Gale was silhouetted in the open doorway, a small shadow cast forwards onto the lawn from the interior lights. She must have heard his car coming. She waved to him as he parked and decamped. He ran up the stone slab path to the door. As Gale shut it behind him, he wiped the raindrops out of his hair. She was dressed casually, in tracksuit bottoms and a t-shirt with no jewellery. Bah, lousy weather. Thanks for coming over, Colbo. Sorry to drag you all this way so late at night at such short notice, but this is urgent. He shrugged semi-mockingly. What are friends for? Would you like a drink? She led him into a broad, clean lounge packed with oak furniture. She opened a drinks cabinet. Sherry? Okay. Sherry okay? Sorry. He nodded as she poured out two glasses and handed him one. Where's Jono tonight? He asked. Out. Gale's expressionless voice and blank gaze spoke volumes, as was her style. Come with me. Gale led Colbert to a small dining room at the rear of the house. It was furnished by a broad oak table and a dozen chairs spaced around it. Thunder roared and the chandelier hanging overhead jingled. Gale pointed at the table. There lay the Ouija board. You forgot to take it home last night, she said. Yeah, I did. It must have slipped my mind with all the fuss and bother. Thanks for picking it up. She didn't reply. She sat down at the table in front of the Ouija board and grasped the planchette. Fancy another session? She smiled at him. Colbert felt irritated. Don't you think that's a bit facetious after your bombshell last night? You feel sorry for Chippy, don't you? She used a teasing tone of mock sorrow. Yes, Gale, I do. She was absolutely mortified by what you did. I mean, okay, you felt she should know the truth, but couldn't you have told her privately? Sit down. Her command was spoken in her usual mild voice, but to Colbert it felt like a shouted order. He hesitated, and then took a seat opposite her. Gale placed the planchette on the Ouija board and closed her eyes. She began rolling the planchette in a circle. Is there anybody there? She moaned. Shut up, Gale, that's not funny. Pack it in now. Is there anybody there? She repeated. I've had enough of this. I've spent all evening driving here. I'm going home. I hope I get there before morning. Colbert got up from the table, but then stopped as the planchette immediately shot over to the word yes. With a shudder he noticed how similar the action had been to the first time he'd seen it 20 years ago in their student dorm in Southampton. The planchette seemed to be alive and mobile, dragging Gale's limp arms along. I don't like this. What are you doing, Gale? The planchette moved again. Colbert slowly returned to his seat and followed the arrow. I am not Gale, it said. Colbert scoffed. Oh, please, this is not appropriate, Gale. I want you to stop this right now. A lightning flash illuminated the room through the patio doors to his right. Thunder crunched a few seconds later. The planchette was moving again. Gale is my channel. Please be careful with her. Who are you? The words were out of his mouth before he had time to wonder why he'd spoken them, and how ridiculous he should have felt. Reardon. Colbert's heart missed a beat. What do you want? I need to speak with you. I have asked Gale to bring you to me. What do you want to speak about? There are some things you need to know. He paused, his rational mind kicking back in. If this was another of Gale's tricks, he decided to play along. Okay, he sighed. First of all, I need to know you exist. Gale has told us that she was just fooling with us last time. How do I know she's not just fooling with me again? That is understandable. It is important that you believe that I am real. Will you do something for me now? Do it exactly according to my instructions. Okay, I'll do that. Move the table away to the corner of the room. Leave at least 6 feet of open floor in front of my channel. Then dim the lights to 25% at most. Then sit in a chair at least 12 feet away facing my channel. Whatever you do, do not touch my channel. It is important that you obey these instructions exactly. Do you need me to repeat them? No, I'll do that. Thunder and lightning struck again as Colbert dragged the heavy oak table to one side and turned the dimmer switch on the lights down. He then took a seat where the Ouija board had instructed. He wondered how Gale, or the spirit, could communicate now there was no table for her to put the Ouija board on. Gale had already started rocking backwards and forwards and moaning before Colbert had got to his seat. She continued to writhe and moan for several minutes. She looked as if she were in pain, but Colbert did not dare touch her because of what the board had warned him. Good grief, he scolded himself aloud. Am I really taking this seriously? Gale's body jerked as if she were retching, and then suddenly she vomited. However, the moment after she did so, Colbert realized that something wasn't right. What came out of Gale's mouth was a stream of thick, white, viscous substance like cream. But it didn't fall under the force of gravity. It floated in the air as if it had been poured into water. Colbert yelped in shock before he could stop himself. He decided he was having a dream. He hadn't driven to Gale's house at all. He was at home in bed, and soon he would wake up and have a good laugh at his nightmare. I'm imagining this. I'm imagining this. It can't be real. The unusual substance that had issued from Gale's mouth began to expand like a white balloon. Its surface was smooth and shiny like milk, and it reflected the dim light of the room. It rippled slightly like thin silk. A wide strand of the main structure remained attached to Gale's mouth like a comic strip speech bubble. Gale herself was now still and silent, as if she had fallen unconscious, sitting completely motionless with her lips apart. The expansion stopped when the mass was about 3 feet across, and it began to change shape and consistency. It started elongating vertically and fluoresced eerily with an internal light source. Colbert then saw that it was assuming the rough shape of a human torso and head. A face appeared on the front of the head that morphed rapidly. It started as a crude shape, but more and more detailed features appeared. The texture changed, colours burst out, and within seconds Colbert was staring at the head of a man, as perfect as a waxwork. The rest of his body was forming too, but lagged behind in details and remained basic in figure. The face was of a young man with fair hair and pale skin. He was swarthy and unshaven, but his blue eyes were bright and intelligent. Colbert's chair was just a few feet away, and he could see every hair on the man's eyebrows and chin, and the lines in the skin of his forehead. His eyes were clear and alert, and glinted with the light coming from both the room and from the phosphorescent glow of the strange matrix from which he'd emerged. Then he blinked his eyes and smiled. From the neck up, he looked no different to any other real man Colbert might meet anywhere at any time. "Good evening, Mr. Norton," he said. His voice was gentle and soft, like a male version of Gale's. Colbert couldn't find his voice. He just sat bolt upright, gripping the side of his seat desperately. "I know this is a bit of a shock for you. I am sorry if I caused you any distress. Who? What? I am known as Reardon, and we've met before, only not face to face like this. I was once a man very similar to you. I was known as Father Jean-Claude de Galdarenne." He spoke this name the way a native French speaker would. Apart from that, his accent was neutral English, like Gale's. "I lived for 35 years. Colbert gasped out a pair of sentences. "What do you want with me? Are you going to kill me?" The apparition smiled. "No, I just wanted to tell you something you need to know about your friends." "What?" "My channel is under enormous emotional stress. That is why she lied at the meeting last night." Thoughts of the skeptics in the pub event the previous evening rushed back from where his alarm had banished them. The meeting? She said she wasn't really psychic, but she is? She is psychic? "Obviously, or else I could not appear to you." Reardon grinned again with amusement. "My channel is very powerful. That's why I've always worked with her. Nobody else except her mother and husband. No one else knows except her mother and husband, and they never talk about it." "So, that night in Southampton, that was really you?" "Yes." "But then, why did Gale not say so? Why did she stand up last night and tell everybody she'd made it up?" "As I said, my channel is suffering badly. Her husband no longer loves her, although she is still very much in love with him. For many years now he has been having a relationship with a woman you call Chippy. My channel feels a lot of hatred for Chippy because of this. My channel knows how much Chippy values our contact in Southampton, so she pretended to her that it was not real in order to hurt her." "My God!" hissed Colbert. "Gale lied. Gale knew the Ouija board was real and lied about it at Sitpy. She came out with that story that it was all a big fraud, just to piss off Chippy." "Precisely," said Reardon. "Please do not think too badly of my channel. She is experiencing an enormous amount of emotional pain." Reardon's voice faded slightly during this sentence, and it became a bit tinny and indistinct. His face became slightly fuzzy too. Then he solidified again. "What are you?" Colbert found himself asking. "I am the same thing as you," Reardon answered. "I didn't know it before, the same way you don't know it now." "Will I one day become like you? When I die?" "Yes." "What's it like where you are?" I am not sure what words." The partial fade out of his face and voice happened again. It made Colbert think of a radio losing its signal and needing to be tuned. "Are you all right?" "The conduit is closing. I cannot remain. Say nothing of what we said to my channel. Be good and happy for a long time, Colbert Norton. Farewell." The face of Reardon vanished into the amorphous white substance from which it emerged, and the substance itself seemed to be shrinking and evaporating. It broke apart and fell to the floor, withering like ice in hot water. The part which came out of Gale's mouth thinned to nothing. After a few seconds it had all vanished, leaving Colbert and Gale sitting alone in the room, as if nothing untoward had happened. There was another flash of lightning and thunderclap. Gale suddenly woke up and leapt to her feet. She looked around herself as if waking from a natural sleep. Colbert jumped up to assist her. "Are you all right, Gale?" "Yeah, fine. Did you see anything?" Yes. Jolly good. Do you want another sherry? It was 3 p.m. when Colbert arrived back home. He parked the car in his garage and entered the house through the front door. Davy was on the phone. Yes? Yes, I'd be glad to. Colbert walked slowly through to the kitchen. He ran his hands along the sideboard, feeling the cracks and knots in the wood with his fingertips. On the 13th, that's soon? Oh, not a problem. I'll just have to make sure work is okay about it. He opened one of the kitchen drawers and took a look inside. There was a potato peeler in there that he'd forgotten he had. Tell you what, to hell with them. If they don't grant me the leave, I'll tell them to stick the job. I wouldn't miss this for anything. He looked out the window at the back garden. It was a bit overgrown. The hedge badly needed clipping. The rain had stopped, and blue sky poked through the clouds. Right you are. Thank you very much for calling. See you in a couple of weeks. Davy threw down the landline and ran into the kitchen. Cole, you're back. How did you get on with Mrs. Houdini? Not bad. Davy noticed his tone. Is everything all right? Was Gail okay? Colbert shrugged. Oh, a bit down in the dumps. Well, that's to be expected. A guilty conscience ain't pleasant. Here, guess who that was on the phone? Who? James Randi. Yes, the amazing Randi. He only wants me to fly over to Florida at the end of the month so he can interview me for his new movie. Thanks to your mate Gail. I can't believe it. James, the amazing Randi, the grandfather of all skeptics. I'm also booked to speak at TAM Australia in December. That's Randy's conference over there. Who would have thought it? Little old humble me, doing my bit for the skeptic cause in a feet-on-the-ground way, like so many others, gaining nothing and receiving nothing for my commitment to science and reason. And now my contribution has finally been recognised. I'm going to be up there on stage with all the greats, Richard Wiseman, Professor Brian Cox, Michael Shermer, Darren Brown. Oh man! Hey Cole, you should come with me to Australia. What do you reckon? Colbert affected the best smile he could. That'd be lovely, Davs, thanks. Davy took a step back and frowned. Well, don't jump too high for joy, Cole. You might dent the ceiling with your head. What's wrong with you? Oh, nothing much. I didn't sleep too well at Gail's. Her guest bedroom's a bit chilly and there was a hell of a storm. Davy frowned. Was everything all right out there? Yeah, fine. You don't sound fine. Colbert paused. I was just wondering, has anybody ever confessed before, like Gail did, publicly, in front of lots of people? A few have, yes, like Banachek, the Fox sisters, also Bob Gimlin, who made a fake Bigfoot film. Has anybody ever made a fake confession? Fake confession? What do you mean? Have you ever heard of anybody make a confession that was a lie? A confession that was a lie? Davy frowned quizzically, as if repeating an unfamiliar technical term or a word from a foreign language. What on earth do you mean? Well, the short answer is no. A confession is never a lie. Claims can be either a lie or the truth. A confession is, by definition, a revelation of the truth. But isn't a confession a kind of claim? Davy burst out laughing. Oh, you're making one of those postmodern and relativistic statements again, aren't you? Like the ones you all entertained you entertained Sidby with the other night. No. Colbert swung round to face him. What I'm saying is that Gail's confession was a lie. Davy's smile broadened. It wasn't, Cole. It was, I know. You've seen nothing. The same way you saw nothing in Southampton. His smile was so broad now that it looked like it would tear his face. No, Davy, last night I saw Gail. You saw Gail very sad and in need of an old friend to visit because she was so depressed and lonely because her old man is shagging Chippy. She wept on your shoulder for a few hours and you both went to bed. No, With a sudden jerk, Davy reached into the drawer that Colbert had opened a few minutes earlier and whipped out a carving knife. He jumped forward and levelled the knife at Colbert's stomach. His smile was gone. Colbert jerked back and raised his arms to defend himself. What the fuck? Davy, what's wrong with you? Now think over what you just said. Davy's voice was still scientific, rational, empirical and very logical. You saw nothing unusual last night. Nothing at all. Remember that, and you'll stay healthy. Understood?
Well, I hope you enjoyed that. I hope it won't give you nightmares. That is my short story Ouija. If you want to read it, seeing as you've listened to me read it out, the full text is available in the description box. Now, the background to this story is very interesting. I actually wrote it very, very quickly. I had the idea and I wrote it down within just a few days. The idea came to me while I was listening to an episode of Skeptic's Guide to the Universe. Yes, it is one of my guilty pleasures. It was episode 343, if you want to check it out. Just go to the about 52 minutes in and you can hear the little section they do on Ouija boards. And they talked about a real scenario that was quite similar to the one in my story. And when I was listening to this real scenario, I thought, well, blimey, I could write a story a bit like that. And so I did. So that's how the story came about. Now, I've had a bit of feedback from the story, and people have remarked that Davy, my character in the story, who turns nasty at the end, he's a Jew. And people have said, come on, look, what's going on here? What's going on here, Ben? You've made one of your characters Jewish for no obvious reason. Well, you can guess what came next, didn't you, Ben? Are you anti-Semitic? I always get that. Yes, of course, I made Davy Jewish, of course, because I believe that Jews are behind the New World Order and they want to take over the world, and Hitler was a good guy. Yes, no, that's not what I think. Alright? The truth is very different. The reason I decided to make Davy Jewish was he was inspired by someone I've been studying lately. It's actually an author and philosopher and a lecturer. She's done some lectures on YouTube as well, and she is called Rebecca Goldstein. Yes, Rebecca Neuberger Goldstein, to be precise. And she's written this book here called 36 Arguments for the Existence of God, which is like actually, it's a philosophical novel, a bit like Ayn Rand's Atlas Shrugged and things like that. But it's quite interesting. She's actually an atheist, a materialist atheist, and I'm finding her very interesting to listen to because, as you know, if you're familiar with me, I tend to focus more on people I don't agree with than those I do. I tend to find them more inspiring to listen to and more energetic. I find myself needing a spirited dissent, shall we say. So Rebecca Neuberger Goldstein is actually Jewish herself. She's from a very, like Davy, she's from a very Orthodox Jewish family, and her brother is a rabbi. So she's had to balance her family life with her beliefs. Like I say, her family, they sit down to the traditional Shabbat meal, they go along to synagogue, things like that. Every Saturday they wear they wear all the traditional clothes and stuff like that. So I thought to myself, well, when I was thinking of the story, I decided to make Davy someone very similar, almost a male equivalent of Rebecca Goldstein. Goldstein! It's Hate Week! Yes! Emmanuel Goldstein! Any relation? This is the book she wrote, not the unnamed book from 1984. So that's why it was. Okay, so I hope I've cleared that up. I hope no one else is going to accuse me of anti-Semitism. Alright, because it's so easy to get accused of anti-Semitism in this business if you're a conspiracy theorist, you know. David Icke, of course, has had that very, very badly. Now, oh, what a Halloween this has been. It's really, really nice. The present and everything I got from the Porter's Poet was great. It really is just exactly what I needed because, bloody hell, I've actually had a pretty crap few days and I need cheering up. And it's not going to be the best Halloween in the world for personal reasons I've had in my life. So I appreciate that very much, and I appreciate you guys who've listened and watched. Thank you very much. I hope you enjoy the story. I hope you go and read the text of it. Feel free to copy it if you want, and you put it in a Word document if you want to carry it around with you. It's up to you. As long as you just remember just attribute me. All right, it's free. I'm not going to sell it. It's just anyone can read it if they want to read it. Okay. Now, I've got a lot planned. I realise from the number of comments I've got, I'm going to have to do another comments video pretty soon. And I will do that within the next 7 days or so. I'm also going to do a video about the upcoming election of the US President, following that 2016 WikiLeaks UFOs. I think it's only fair that I actually do something, I expand on that a little bit more like I said I would. And so I'm going to do a bit of that, and I'm going to try out one of those Hangout things. I've never done a Google Hangout before, so I thought I might try that. If I'm going to do it, I'll give you guys plenty of notice. I'll mention it in my replies video, and let you know when it's going to be. So if you guys want to come in to comment and ask me questions, you can. It's just an experiment, really. I thought I might do one during the American presidential election. It should be fun in that sense. And interesting. It's just something I've never tried before. It might work, it might not, I don't know. But anyway, thanks very much you guys for watching. You're great. Stay tuned. More videos coming very soon. And thank you most of all to Sophie the Portless Poet. I hope she and everyone else has a very happy Halloween. And sleep tight. Hospital Porters, pride and dignity. Stop the New World Order.
Happy Halloween. Leave now while you still can.
Leave now before Master finds you.
Who is that knocking at my door? Who is that knocking at my door? Who is that knocking at my door? Be gone with you.